Look, but barring a preference, we're going to put you on a movie podcast. Blank check. I say this because they tell me you know the poetry of the street. So that would rule out westerns, pirate podcasts, screwball, Bible, rum. Look, I'm not one of those guys who thinks poetic has got to be fruity. We're together on that, aren't we? I mean, I'm from New York myself. Well, Minsk, if you want to go all the way back, which we won't. But if you don't mind, I ain't asking. Now, these people are going to say to you, blank check. Movies. It's a B podcast. You tell them bullshit. We do not make B podcasts here at Blank Check Productions. Let's put a stop to that rumor right now.
You didn't hit it, which is fine because you're reading the long chunk here. But the way he says, I mean, I'm from New York myself. Well, Minsk, if you want to go all the way back, which we won't. If you don't mind, and I ain't asking. Right. You're like, oh, he's suddenly like, he's in his own track and he's like, but I don't want to talk about that, even though I just brought it up. That to me is the epitome of beautiful monologuing, right? Where it's like, now this guy is in a tunnel. Like he's no longer even thinking about the guy.
It is a thing that I feel like the Coen brothers, it is where you feel the strongest influence, even in their dramas of like Preston Sturges. Mm-hmm. And like Lubitsch and Wilder kind of stuff, where you're like these brief moments where a character starts to hint at a whole deeper life within themselves.
It is a screwball comedy going on in life, basically.
Yeah, yes. It's what I like about the city is that it makes me feel unimportant in a way that I think is valuable.
Oh, by the way, have you guys seen The Clock, the Christian Barclay?
Yes, I mean, not all 24 hours of it, but I popped in.
I went some fair weather friend you are.
They closed the museum.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, like, how do you see the nighttime clock?
They will occasionally schedule a 24-hour session.
Fucking amazing to think.
Or you got to go Ben Stiller mode.
Oh,
work a night at the museum.
Except it's a night at MoMA, so it's like
the movies come alive.
Some abstract artist like going around. Yeah, exactly.
I got to say,
some dots.
I went with my wife Mercedes there yesterday, and it was a redeeming experience.
Really?
It was really amazing, and I recommend. I think it's going on May 21st. It's leaving MoMA, but you're around, you get a chance.
It's leaving MoMa. Well, I mean, this episode's coming out in whatever,
right.
like a long time from now. So,
but your message is being received by the three of us.
I've gone to this iteration of MoMA, but it'll return. Like it travels around the world, right? Like that's sort of the thing with it.
Well, look, David, you say that, and yet the last thing we were talking about just before we started recording,
I've had a few,
is that you were offered a chance to moderate a Q&A with the Coen brothers when they were promoting Buster Scruggs, and you were like, ugh, what a schlep. And now here we are, and you're like, this moment's still their final film together. We keep hearing they're going to get back together, but you just...
Wait, where was the schlep to?
Unknown schlep.
Okay, well, so the schlep would have been uptown, like to the Upper West Side. That's not why I turned it down, really.
Timing.
Okay. It's like, well, and it would have been late at night. Neither of those are the reason. I just was like, as I was saying to Griffin, they are, and we're right. This is our first Coens that we're recording, but we'll have probably talked about this a little bit already. Yeah. But they're notoriously the worst interviews, right? Yes. Like so tough to get talking, and the whole thing with those post-screening Q&As is you don't want to be talking because people don't want to hear from like, hi, the moderator. They want to hear from these directors who are popping in. But like they're known for kind of just like not giving you anything, right?
And I was saying even beyond that
and like mumbling, like they mumble all the fucking time. It feels
like they play dumb. Like it's what's going to be fascinating about this series is that these movies are so deep and rich as text, and yet like JJ's job seems more difficult than ever. Even coming off of like some movies that were hard for him to research because there's not that much information out there. I'm cracking open the Barton Fink dossier, and I'm like, this thing's going to be 150 pages. And then I read it, and I'm like, oh, right. There's just like every interview they gave is just like, I don't know.
They're not on the record.
Right. They'll talk about it, but they're just really cagey about it. And they kind of play dumb and go like, we just did that because we thought it was funny. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a metaphor.
Right. And possibly they're hostile, or possibly they just don't want to talk to you about it or whatever. So I was just kind of like... And like I liked Buster Scruggs, like I liked that movie a lot, and I've only actually grown to like it more.
Same.
But it wasn't a thing where I was like, I fucking want to dig in on Buster Scruggs with these guys so bad. And I just was like, what if I have like a really disappointing experience, right? You know, like a truly like they don't like me or I do a bad job, and then I'm like,
well, what if you might have taken the blame for their not saying much, right? Because people, I remember doing it.
It felt a little no-win, like the win, the opportunity for a true win of like, wow, I had a really meaningful half hour with the Coen brothers. felt like a slim ass window.
People might have blamed them splitting up on you, just being like, "Look, there's not a definite 1-to-1, but Sims moderated Q&A, and now they're apparently going separate ways." What were you gonna
right?
say?
That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
I broke them up. They were like, we can't deal with this anymore.
Shit like this.
The Clock, by the way, is a 24-hour movie, because I feel like I just referred to it without saying what it was. Is a 24-hour movie which is assembled just from references to time or actual shots of clocks within world cinema. And it is absolutely compelling. Like
Yes,
you think you're going to
absolutely.
sit there for like 15 minutes, and you end up thinking like, I could go for 24 hours.
It's just unbelievable to think even how someone would curate and find all the footage, because the way it lines up, even to the minute, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's a thing too, where as you're sitting through, you'll like check, and it will line up.
It's the time in which you are watching it. Yeah, that is also the amazing thing.
And even like with modern like internet databases and such,
Still hard.
It doesn't feel like you can just Google like movie that features 6:13 a.m.
Nope.
No.
Like that's just like manual like grunt work in terms of like scrubbing thousands of films to probably pull up all those numbers. Yeah.
Friend of the show, Caroline Framke, went recently.
Past and future guest.
Yes, and she went in the morning. I think they had like an early moment, did like an early morning thing. So it was like 9 a.m. And she says like, it's all alarm clocks and shit. Like when you're there, like it's like so much wake up stuff.
See, that sounds triggering to me.
Right. And she's like, it's a little overwhelming, but also kind of intense.
I was so annoyed. I wanted to go at 4:20, and it just didn't work out.
Hey, hell yeah, brother.
But I felt like that footage would have been pretty dank.
Hey, look, what is this?
All the French doobie movies.
The French
The French Cheech and Chong equivalent.
Jacques and Jean.
Jacques and Jean.
Jacques and Jean. Fumé. Folks, who are we? Where are we? What is this? What are we doing? This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
He was priding himself for so long.
I was looking at the moment.
being
I was
fast.
kind of like, now you were making me think. I was
He's
like,
off his fastball now.
should I one last sweep into the clock? And like, what time should I was just sort of thinking about it.
I gotta do it. Look, this is a podcast about filmographies, not 24-hour movies about clocks, but perhaps someday. Maybe that's a series. Directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce, baby. This is a mini-series on the films of Joel and Ethan Coen. We are calling it Pod Country for Old Casts.
We sure are.
We sure are. There was a little bit of debate right before we recorded, but we've settled on that. And today we were talking Barton Fink, which is, bizarrely, their first guarantor.
Did it win the
it won the Palme d'Or.
I'm putting this forward as a thought because they go from this to Joel Silver saying, I'm going to bring you into Warner Brothers and give you a big budget and major movie stars and try to get you to level up. And to some degree, I think that was Joel Silver having the aspirations of wanting to make a higher class picture and viewing them as a vehicle to that.
I mean, they must have felt like they were living in a simulation.
Totally. But you're like, this is a thing that absolutely does not happen anymore, which is like a prestige guarantor. This movie loses money in theaters. It does not translate to the number of Oscar nominations as like its critical reception would belie or its Cannes reception or anything. It does okay, right? But yet,
this movie?
It's so undeniable.
I wouldn't say this movie did okay. It didn't really make much money.
No, it lost money.
Right, yeah.
But
Right.
it didn't have the the Mommy Dearest effect, right? Where it was like quietly they were blackballed from
No,
you don't
the
think
opposite.
Raising Arizona was their first guarantor? I think Raising Arizona was their first.
But Raising Arizona is not as much of a hit as you think it is.
No, it's not.
We'll have talked about it.
I mean, it's not. I mean, that movie did pretty good considering, its stature and their stature. And I feel like Miller's Crossing is a bit of a first blank check. Like getting to do a sort of a costume.
A little
thing.
bit. I mean, look, their career is interesting because it has a lot of like alternation between like missteps and hits that then get them the next one, and then they have to recover and like make comebacks from like the swinging public reception to their films at the time. Now almost all of them have aged well, but it's going to be interesting to go back through these and see which ones were not well received at the time. I just think like this film has such an insane critical reception.
Sure.
And the Cannes thing that is historic
The Cannes thing is a big deal.
Right.
To the extent that Cannes has to change its rules.
To a degree.
So that's sort of interesting.
Where it's like these guys are
such... I
such...
didn't know that.
Cannes changed it so you can only give 2 awards to one movie.
This
total.
film won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor at Cannes.
And it won Picture unanimously.
Yes.
And it sort of makes sense. Like, they kind of were like, don't give the Palme d'Or and Best Director to the same thing. Why not spread the wealth? Which has become the thing to do.
The following year, they applied the rule, the Barton Fink rule, basically, of one movie can only get 2 awards.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then they give the Palme d'Or to The Best Intentions, one of the worst Palme winners of all time. But anyway, that's not important.
It just translates into Joel Silver swinging in and giving them the biggest budget they will have until True Grit.
Hudsucker is their biggest budget. So it's 25 mil. Big Lebowski cost less. Yeah, that's one where I was kind of like, because that movie sort of...
And Lebowski is
Brother cost 26. Now, with inflation. But, it's like they become these guys kind of pretty much post this, but, maybe even starting a little bit with Miller's Crossing, where it's like they can get a pretty good budget.
Yes.
For an elaborate-ish movie, like a period film or something like that.
They work pretty responsibly.
Because they're really, really well known for working on time and under budget.
And the other thing is they get an all-star cast of people who will work for below their quote. Like, it's just they always can get a sort of
good actors.
A cast that makes sense for foreign financing. But very often, I think in their career, you have these duo relationships between movies of far goes the guarantor for Big Lebowski, which then bounces. Mm-hmm. So then they need to make a comeback from Lebowski, like this constant back and forth.
It's interesting how much the Big Lebowski's bouncing just doesn't matter anymore, right? It
doesn't matter.
Yeah. But it was a thing.
At the time, it was seen as
it was a thing. It was seen as
just took these guys seriously and now they're fucking off.
Right.
And making a joke movie.
Right.
They had just won their first Oscar and it was like, we've anointed you guys. And then what the fuck is this?
Right. I'm kind of interested in what your guys' perception is of where they stand in the kind of the pantheon. Because to me, they're the greatest living filmmakers because of their sheer range. You can argue about any number of other things.
I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. I do not dislike one of their films, and I don't know who else I can say that for who has made this many films or even close to this many films. Right. Certainly living today, let alone in history. I also will say, our guest today is Chris Weitz.
Here he is.
Hello.
A renowned director and writer, producer in his own right.
Renowned?
Previously and now once again part of a brother team of filmmaking.
Yes, we're back together, me and my brother Paul.
Renowned, you've been Oscar nominated.
Yes, that's true.
You've had your hits.
You've had your bounces. Can't take that away from me. I've been pretty bouncy. Actually, this is why
you've been in a Tigger mode.
Of late, I've been bouncing.
You've been Tiggering a little bit.
Tigger. Yeah, and actually, that's part of why the Barton Fink of it all really appealed to me because today, first of all, I'm back.
You're
3
back.
years. 3 years away. 3 years
4
in the desert. 4.
That's what's crazy.
3.
4. Are you sure about this?
Yes. Wow. I looked it up just now. He was last on our show for Darkman in April 2022.
Okay.
And it is now, it's April 2025.
When we're recording this. But it will be about 3.5 years between releases. Yeah. Far too long.
I was heading towards what I like to call the Yoshida line, where it's like you get 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And then I kind of fell off the face of the earth. And I don't think it's not you guys. It's like
no. Someone on the Reddit called it out and said, "How has it been 3 years since Weitz was on the podcast last?" And I think we texted you and we're like, "That doesn't sound right."
Yeah.
Like once we checked it, we were like, "Fuck! It has been 3 years. You have not been on since we recorded in Ben's living room."
That's right.
In the living room.
It was very post pandemic,
yes,
or still. Like I remember, I took a COVID test on the way there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, out of common courtesy back then.
But it did not feel like that much time had elapsed. We still talk to you fairly regularly.
Oh no, listen, I hear you guys all the time.
Right,
like,
and you've done us some mitzvahs. You submitted a question for our live mailbag and stuff.
I think the question was, why are you guys so great?
Well, it was very sweet. But here's the bigger thing. It feels like you have been in a sort of a real kind of
a Barton Funk.
A Barton Funk.
Yeah.
And you have sent a lot of like Dark Night of the Soul texts to David and I, not to be alarmist, but a real like, what is the point of doing this, pursuing this kind of career, this industry? What is my life amounting to? Where David and I late at night are like, Chris,
is he okay?
You're good.
We had to get him back.
You're good, Chris.
But this is like, I've been thinking about this episode for weeks, if not months, of like, I'm going to go there in terms of like inside baseball. And also I'm telling you guys to stop me when it gets like too up my own butt in terms of like, this is sort of what's happening in my career. And these are my reflections on it, my somewhat acid reflections on working in a studio world, basically.
But here's what I think is interesting, important for the listeners to know. Maybe a little under a year ago, when your last movie, Afraid.
Which,
okay, by
which
the
was
way,
originally called They Listen, correct?
Well, even before that, actually, the real name of this movie was Home, and we couldn't use it. And then it went through a number
because there have been a lot of other movies called Home.
I think that's why. And then it got changed by various marketing departments and the studio to things where I was like, fine, whatever. Well, sorry, you were saying.
I was saying that movie came out. We'll get more into it, but you had a long, exhausting journey with that movie that you really came out the other end of it being like, what am I even doing
Came out
here?
the other end like the rectum of the studio system.
A couple weeks after it was not really released, but escaped into theaters, you text us and we're like, guys, I think it's time for me to come back on the podcast. And most specifically, the insight I want to provide is I am now someone who has made a movie that doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I would like to do a movie that doesn't exist that you guys are covering and talk about the like road paved with good intentions that lead to these sort of weird non-movies.
Yeah. And then I started to think, well, okay, what is the taxonomy of flop, bomb, movie that doesn't exist? Because arguably,
Afraid is not a bomb or whatever. It's more, no offense, it's more a movie that doesn't exist.
It needs to be big enough to be a bomb.
That's
it's a little movie
Bombs
that doesn't exist.
Bombs are noticeable, like hence bomb.
But I feel like a movie needs to have existed for you to think that it doesn't exist.
I disagree with that. Here's why I think it passes the movie that doesn't exist test.
Right.
Because if you say to someone, hey, do you remember Afraid? The John Cho, Catherine Waterston, Chris Weitz directed Blumhouse AI horror film.
Right.
They'd go like, when's that coming out?
Oh, friends of mine would ask me.
That's the movie that doesn't exist test, which is if you describe it to someone, they'd go, I would remember if that came out.
It's a Mandela effect kind of thing.
Right. You're describing elements that would have made some impact. That's the movie that doesn't exist effect. So we were like, okay, let's keep our eyes open for the next right movie that doesn't exist. Yeah. You're texting us during March Madness about who you're excited about, potential ideas. What are the movies that don't exist in those filmographies? Then the Coens win, and David and I just immediately go, we got to have Chris do Barton Fink.
Yes.
I know it's the opposite of what he said he wanted to do, but it is kind of the movie about how movies that don't exist come into being in a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like maybe their most astringent film, right? There is less joy in this movie, although there's virtuosity, but I'd say like than so many other of their films.
I think this is one of the most sickly looking films I have ever seen. It is like disgusting to look at. And it is the first Deakins movie. He's perhaps the greatest living cinematographer. And this is the beginning of his like miracle run with them. And yet the success of the lensing of this movie is that it makes me want to vomit at all times. And that look is a reflection of like the soul of the characters and the tone and the sound design.
Right. Yeah.
And yet, getting back to our original point, when you ask the Coen brothers about it, they were like, we've actually had like a really lucky run in Hollywood.
Right.
None of this is like based on our own experiences. We just thought this was like a funny structure to make jokes.
That is the interesting thing, which that it wasn't based on the experiment of being dicked over by the studio because they hadn't become studio creatures. Nor did they ever really. They're
no, not really.
I mean, back to our point, they sort of have always figured out the exact right size to stay at, where their movies seem like a bargain for the people writing the checks, and they're like, if you can keep it there and you can put these 10 actors in it, then like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It was more fun. I'm sorry. It was more not fun. It was more making fun of the classic art versus commerce.
Yes.
Sort of struggle of the golden age of Hollywood.
I feel like this movie is more than anything them reckoning with their own internal battle in their minds of who they want to be as filmmakers as their reputation is starting to get built.
It is the writer's block movie. Like it's about other things too, but like no movie better like tackles the experience of not being able to write.
But a quote that blew my mind in the dossier that JJ pulled up is they were like, we have no unproduced screenplays in our drawer. Like at this point in time, now they do. And they have over time let other people direct unproduced screenplays of theirs eventually. But they were like, at this point in time, everything we've written has gotten made. We have not gone through this ringer.
Crazy.
We have not done writing for assignment.
What a run.
Yeah, it's wild. I feel like there was some original point I was going to make when I
Barton Fink
said you're an esteemed filmmaker, and I'll get back to it.
Chris Weitz is an esteemed filmmaker.
He's an esteemed filmmaker.
And
we have to admit it.
He has worked in Hollywood for 25 years. What are we talking
Longer.
about here? Like, I guess, was Ants your first
that was the
Hollywood
first
experience?
credited screenplay,
Sure.
But my brother and I had been working for 7 years before that. So I found out that I got my first gig on my 21st birthday. So as long as I have been able to drink legally, I have been within the system.
Did you have celebratory drinks that night?
That night and every night. No, I didn't. Well, interestingly, what it did probably was contribute to the sense that I had early in my career that like I was a golden child, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's your birthday present. You get to be in this industry.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to begin the career story. Like, so get to work on.
Give us that Chris Weitz feeling
on Ants before Woody Allen is canceled. So that was kind of a big deal. People loved that.
Look, I say it all the time. Fantastic screenplay.
Oh, thanks, man.
Ants is very well written.
People really liked that, and then so we had the studio meeting at Universal, and there's this movie that was eventually going to become American Pie. We didn't have any directing experience, my brother and I, and they offered it us to direct. And like I didn't know anything. I'd never been to prom. Like David, I grew up in England, right? I went to sixth form there. They didn't have prom. And I was like, I don't really like teen sex comedies, but I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's try to make it kind of interesting. It was like
no response from David for any of this. We just have to call his ass out.
It's retired.
Astounding.
It was this kind of unlikely hit, incredibly profitable, and I was like,
spawns a franchise.
There had not there's no. Is there anything in the water when American Pie is a big hit where it's like, we didn't see the teen sex comedy revival coming? You know what I mean?
There was
because with Scream, it's sort of like slashers are back.
Can I throw out my take on it?
Please.
She's All That's 98. I feel like that sort of gets credit for being like the start of the new wave of our teen movies back.
Right.
98 is also something about Mary.
Yeah, there you go.
Right,
and that's like the saucy comedy.
American Pie is sort of you guys synthesizing those two things together.
Yeah,
which
but kind
of
by mistake.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
but they had both started the year before, and you're like at the right place at the right time to have the movie that capitalizes on both things that were coming back.
Yeah, in retrospect, it's just happenstance. But like that, and it was like, okay. And then we were offered every single teen sex comedy for like a year.
Yes,
like I never want to do this again.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, this wasn't my thing, man.
You don't do the sequels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd never really seen many teen sex comedies. Obviously, they're required like viewing if you're my age of like Porky's and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But so then we were like, we got to not do this. We got to do something different, my brother and I. So we did a movie with Chris Rock. And
Down to Earth's the second one.
Down to Earth.
But and beyond that, you remake Heaven Can Wait.
Remake Heaven Can Wait. Yeah.
Calling it a Chris Rock movie is like underselling. Yeah. That's a big swing.
It was a big swing. At the moment, you know what? I thought I had a fantastic time working with Chris Rock and a good time working on that movie. I was like, I don't know that that's like exactly what I was wanting to do either. But then finally, About a Boy. So
it does make sense as a sort of like a fairly large scale comedy. Like it's a level up from American Pie, but it's not like you're like, hey, can I make a movie with space aliens? Like it's like they're like, we can trust you to make a comedy like that.
It's a different tone, and Chris Rock was in that state where people were like, can anyone crack how to make him a movie star?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and it was like, I can remember, this is like a very Barton Fink moment, like our agent saying, this is a go picture, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, I was like, I don't know, okay.
I like that film quite a bit as well.
You also made it fast, I feel like.
We did.
Pretty
We were like, and also I was younger then, so you don't think like, oh, this is going to take up years of my life.
Is that 2000?
It's early 2000s. It's Valentine's Day 2001. So,
Okay.
18 months later or whatever.
Right. Then About a Boy, which was like the sweet spot for me and Paul. We go away to London and we make this movie and nominated for an Oscar. It's like, oh, great! This is like, okay, this is me from.
And not
from
to blow smoke up your ass, but I truly think a perfect movie, like a movie where everything is
that's wonderful.
Is right.
Oh,
but one of my ultimate comfort movies. I said this to you, but like day 2 of lockdown, I was like, what should I watch?
That's good.
And I jumped to About a Boy immediately. Of just
sweet,
like,
man.
this is what I need to calm me down.
That makes me very happy. I'm glad. Yeah, and that was like, okay, here we go. This is I'm just going to keep on getting nominated for Oscars until I win one, and then we're gonna.
To you guys at that point in time, you must have been like, we've cracked it. This is what we want to be as filmmakers.
Yep.
This is the tone. This is the final product. This is how we want to be seen and received.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I read while we're shooting About a Boy. I read The Golden Compass, or in English called Northern Lights, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I love this book. I love this author. I want to live in this book for a while, and so I get the gig of doing Golden Compass.
First writing, or no? It was like you were going to direct, then you.
It was to direct, and then I dropped out
returned.
because
Right.
I really got the willies. I was like, holy shit, this is going to be a huge movie, and I'm not sure that I can handle the entire logistical load of this. And so I don't know.
I think a lot about a thing you said to me previously, which was the best decision I ever made in my life was quitting the Golden Compass as director, and the worst decision I ever made was deciding to go back.
Kind of, because because it was a huge movie. It was the most expensive movie that had ever been made at the time.
Yeah.
We had to work to get it down to $190 million budget. So I'm going from like
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, so there was this gigantic kind of CGI element, huge production design element.
And are you basically like prepping that? I mean, developing that while you're making In Good Company?
No, my brother was making
that's
In
not a
Good
Chris
Company.
movie.
So,
I'm
sorry.
we
I forgot that.
kind
Yes.
of we went our separate ways because
So
Paul,
About a Boy's the last one.
About a Boy's the last one.
Why did you like just kind of consciously go like, I want to do this, I want to do this. These are very different things. We're going to do different things.
Yeah, we were sort of presented with the possibility that one of us would have to force the other not to do the thing that they want to do, and we're like, we don't do that.
Now, this read Coen's, and then we can return to your career.
Of course, no. Let's go.
American
back to
Pie is credited as being directed by Paul Weitz.
Yeah,
you are a producer on it. Down to Earth is credited to both of you, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, did you get DGA approval as a team at that point?
Yes.
It's famously, the Coens do not get that until I think The Lady Killers. It's like somewhere in the mid 2000s, the DGA is finally like, we acknowledge that you are essentially a two-headed director.
Right. They didn't like to grant that to anybody.
They still don't.
I think the Coens helped break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
There are it's usually sibling teams.
That's the thing.
There's the occasional like Jonathan Dayton, Valerie.
I was going to say,
right.
married
Ferris.
couple is the other one.
Right.
Like, it's easier.
Is
I
Anna
think-
Boda and Ryan Fleck, they're married, right?
They're
Or
not.
Weren't they a couple?
They were a couple, but they are
Right.
now both married to other people. They haven't been together romantically in
Right.
over a decade.
But they are obviously dual. There's the American Splendor team, Pulcini and Bergman.
But this is right. I think part of it
Berman.
is if you are bonded by blood or by law, it is easier to make your case to the DGA because they're like, well, you have a bond that is established in another realm.
Yeah.
That helps bias.
You literally need to make your case. You go into a conference room and there is a council of elders sitting there, and you have to explain to them why you should be a team, and they ask you questions trying to poke a hole in your argument.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them.
Why do they like? In a way, you're splitting money.
I've thought about this a lot. Okay, it's because eventually it's because of the auteur theory. It is because of the DGA's sort of position, which I appreciate, of course, because it's my union. Of like, this is a very special role, and the film is made by the director. You cannot split it up into various parts so that you don't have some like producer trying.
Everyone will be trying to get a director credit.
So, but it's quasi-religious because it leads you into situations where things obviously don't really make sense.
Yes. Yeah.
So like my brother and I can't be a director team again officially.
Like you cannot.
We cannot.
Then divorced.
They said when I remember, and I had forgotten
This
it.
is
but
insane.
Jedi council.
You were saying
shit.
this to us right before we started recording, and I was like, pin this, save this, because your show has just come out on Apple Plus at the time this episode's come out, Murderbot, which is the first thing you guys have fully worked on together since About a Boy.
Exactly.
Although you've like produced things together and like helped each other, this is you couldn't get fucking credited for directing the episodes together.
No, because apparently 20 years ago when we got the license to
About
do
a Boy, also directed by the pair of you.
That's right. Yeah. They said, would you ever split up again if you found things that you were interested in doing separately? And we said, of course not, because I don't know, at the time it didn't make sense. But they've held us to that.
Wild.
And we have been cast out of the garden as a team. Yeah.
What a lot of teams do if they can't get the guild recognition is what the Coens did for years, which is like, how do we divide and conquer? And it's like, we co-wrote the screenplay. One of us is credited as producer. One of us is credited as director. We edit under a pseudonym, right?
Yes.
Right.
And like try to create a sort of like weird, how do we even out the positions and the power?
A conceptual like intermeshing so that everyone really understands what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it's always the thing of just like, well, they obviously just do the whole thing together, right? They're called the Coen brothers. Everyone refers to them that way. They don't talk about like Joel Coen
and
movies.
Even so, it took 15 plus years, almost 20 years for the DGA to finally go like, okay.
Because does Joel get a solo director nom for Fargo?
Yes, absolutely.
Right, which is so weird to consider.
Yeah, no, totally.
And then obviously, like, if they
like,
had one best
imagine
picture,
if
that
he'd
would have
won.
been Ethan's.
Correct.
And not
Best
Joel's.
Picture. No, Fargo is not, because Fargo's the only time this comes up, because the next time they get a Best Pick nom is for No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, like, nominated Best Picture, Ethan Coen. Nominated Best Director, Joel Coen.
Right.
Like, that's,
because the No Country year, they
are united by
they share 3 Oscar wins together.
Correct.
The movie wins picture, director, screenplay, and both of them have credits in both positions. But that's, once again, as you said, a thing that had only finally happened.
I think it's one movie before that they'd finally gotten the... So that's interesting. But now if you do work together again, you're saying you will have to do a sort of like, technically you're the director. I'm the producer.
We have to split it up. And by the way, I think, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I think the DGA doesn't say that like there are certain things on the set that only a director can do. Oh my God, maybe there are. Shit. Maybe I'm in trouble. But like they don't really care if a producer talks to an actor or if they act like a director per se.
Well, there's also the other thing of like there are things that a director can't do.
This is the myth is that they can't talk to extras, and I'm not sure that is actually true,
because first ADs almost always end up directing background actors.
Yes.
And I had always assumed that was because of some weird guild guideline.
This may be true. In Canada, that is not the case. Maybe it is in America.
Fascinating.
And I think that there was like something where like if the director talks to an extra, first of all, they get bumped up instantly and they're like,
you can't talk to them because, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
The second the director is shaping their performance.
Yep.
Versus like the first AD talking to a crowd.
Yes.
And
the moment that an extra says a word that can actually be distinguished, also, which the game is always that extras are occasionally trying to say things or to elicit a line.
Yes.
So that because then I think you get into sort of SAG stuff.
Right. Then you can you become eligible. Yeah.
Right. So ADs are always saying like, you could sort of say the kind of thing that a crowd says like, right? They can't say words.
Right. Nothing
that
can
actually
be
say.
like distinct enough to make out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So Golden Compass.
Golden Compass. Okay. Right. People just want to hear about the Coen brothers, and I'm sorry, but I'm just going to go there. Like, so okay. I now have a theory that there was an original sin on the Golden Compass, which is that I knew that the stuff about the Catholic Church was going to be too toxic for New Line to want to deal with.
Sure.
And they told me that, and I was like, it's going to be fine, no problem. And then I sort of sneakily, infused my my cut and my film with all these things, and then in post-production everything went totally wrong where they freaked out about this whole thing, wanted to change the ending, blah 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 blah. I was eventually kicked out of the editing room, and I would like to say like it's the typical thing of being hard done by a studio, but I should have known better. And when I think about my latest movie too, I think there's an original sin there as well. But by the way, I want to say before I complain about studios, I love Blumhouse and I love all the people there. They're fantastic. They're great. So none of the things I say actually apply to these guys. They're the producers on this.
But and look,
I mean, the people who screwed you on Golden Compass no longer exist. I mean, I'm sure the people exist, but New Line, the entity that you dealt with, then has ceased to exist.
I basically brought down a studio.
It's partly your fault.
Film.
It's that movie's fault.
But also, like the trailer for that movie, I remember so distinctly, is the ring from the Lord of the Rings rotating in slow motion and then turning into a golden compass.
That was like an early promoting thing. And but wait.
Oh, sorry.
That was my fault.
Really?
My fault. That was my fault. I was kind of at the time, like, things were really stressful with the studio, and I was like, fuck it. I know what they want.
In 2001, New Line Cinema opened the door.
Yeah.
And you see a ring. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, to Middle Earth. I mean, it's a little, I'm just going to say, it's a little on the nose. It's a little.
No, it is totally truckling. And I think it was at a moment where I was like back on my heels. They're like kind of
how do I win back favor? By, making them feel I'm a team player.
Yep.
But then that also, of course, like fucks you and putting even more pressure on the movie where now like you're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
That was always the design of this movie is the Lord of the Rings trilogy has ended.
Yeah.
We don't have the rights to The Hobbit.
Yeah.
How do we find our next Lord of the Rings?
Yep.
And now you're like telling them to market the movie being like, we promise you this is the new Lord of the Rings.
The pressure was always going to be there because they spent so much money.
No, it's not. You didn't create that narrative, but now you're underlining it.
Yeah.
And delivering it to the public.
No, this is like a big movie like that where everyone is freaking out constantly messes with your head, and so you end up like kind of going slightly punch drunk and doing crazy things.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm also like, I mean, to your point of the original sin thing, right? Like, you're in this sort of catch-22 where it's like, okay, they go, we'll give you a green light, but.
Yeah.
And the condition they throw out to you is like anathema to successfully adapting this thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, what's your choice here? You either do what they want, and then you're making what fundamentally is a broken version of the movie in your eyes, and that's correct. It would be broken.
Well,
or you try to smuggle it in and get it past them. But of course, they then have the right to go, you fucking tricked us, and be angry about it.
Yeah.
They fucked up. Look, I mean, the whole thing with the Northern Lights, the book, is that it's plainly in the text, and it's less in the first book, right? Like the church stuff is way less in the first book.
You have to sow the seeds.
By the third book, they are truly, literally, spoiler alerts for His Dark Material, killing God.
Yeah.
Like they kill him.
It's hard to soft pedal that one.
Right. But so by that point, I think the whole trilogy had come out. You know, the books had all been. So it's like, we know where that alethiometer is pointing.
Yeah, the whole pressure is you need to be able to make the sequels to this. We want this to complete the book series, so you're going to have to get there. Yeah. Here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to the moment of About a Boy where it's like, this is it. This is the movie that represents what I'd like to be as a writer-director, how I'd like to be seen in the industry. That's my question. Like, you had not made a film like Golden Compass. To some degree, is New Line like, oh, we want that Chris Weitz feeling? Is there like an X factor you can bring to this, much like Jackson not seeming like the obvious choice to do Lord of the Rings at that time? Like, is there a sensitivity? Is there emotionality? Was there a thing they were quantifying or that you were trying to weaponize as like, here's my feeling?
This is the Chris Weitz touch.
I think I had a Barton Finky feel. But there was a Barton Fink feeling at the time. Definitely. Like you definitely have pixie dust, right?
You'd made About a Boy, right?
Made About a Boy, and also like, oh, he made this like small movie, or he and his brother made this small movie that made like 10 times as much as its budget. Like, let's do it.
I feel like you also told me, I think it was maybe when you very briefly appeared on one of the interminable George Lucas pandemic live streams, and Connor and I only wanted to ask you questions about the clumps.
I've never been on the George Lucas.
You have. It was really brief. It was like early lockdown, and we were raising money for charity and watching all the Star Wars movies, and we had you zoom in during Rogue One, and then I think like 5 minutes into you being on, something happened with one of your kids. Not too dramatic, but you were like, I'm so sorry, I have to go. And Connor for years was like, did I piss him off?
Not at all.
Because we had you zoom in while we're watching Rogue One, and then we were like, the funny bit is let's only ask him questions about Nutty Professor 2, the Clumps.
Which you are credited as writing on, along with various other people.
And there's a great moment at a Q&A, because you go on these Q&As when you get nominated for the Oscar, and people ask you questions, and they list your credits, and it's like, also nominated as blah, 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 Chris Weitz, this and that, and Nutty Professor 2, the Clumps. And I was like, oh, God.
Connor and I were very united on this bit, and then you were like, gentlemen, I'm so sorry, but I do have to go right now. And then Connor was like, he's irate, and I was like, I really don't think that's Chris's vibe.
You don't,
but you said to us,
right? It seems like it'd be hard to really piss you off.
How did you end up being a credited writer on the Clumps? And you said something to the effect of, at that point in time, my brother and I had a reputation for like we could take comedies and put a little more genuine feeling in them without being saccharine. That was the Weitz feeling, was a core of a sweetness and an emotion that feels earned.
In theory, that is what I still can do. Yeah. I still have a heart.
It's in there somewhere, folks.
If you pay enough, you get it. Okay, can I say, like, so there's an original sin on my last movie, Afraid, which is like, this movie was a was a paranoid thriller like The Parallax View, and the studio, which shall remain nameless, wanted it to be a horror movie so much that there's a number of decisions that
to make it sort of jumpier and a little more like
more horror.
The film, which I've seen, has anyone else seen Afraid?
No, crickets.
Griffey?
I admittedly have not, out of respect to the fact that I know the final film that was released was not reflective of what you were trying to do.
I am very ambivalent as to whether I want people to see it or not. They would need like a long kind of a pamphlet from me about like what.
I've been curious to watch it, but I haven't seen it for that exact reason, because you had relayed that ambivalence to me.
I watched it knowing that you had a bit of a tough time making it, but not really knowing any detail at all. And right as it started, I was like, "Oh, well, I can see Chris here right away in the family and in how the movie is kicking off and stuff." But then, yes, it does have that sort of the first Purge movie, not the movie The First Purge, but the Purge, the first of the Purge movies, where they're like, "Let's do our concept as a home invasion movie because that's cheap, and that's like a way to sort of suggest something bigger, but still have like the sort of reliable horror of a home invasion movie."
Yeah.
We can cut this out if I'm saying anything that I shouldn't say.
No, let's go.
But I remember getting lunch with you. I was visiting LA, and it was maybe only a month or two after you had wrapped the movie. And Megan had just come out,
Mithrigan, of course.
And they had announced that your movie was being pushed back a year.
Yes.
And I was like, what's going on with this? How do you feel about this? And it was just sort of like, I'm told it's a good thing. They want more time.
Sure.
They might want to try some things. But there was already this sense of like, is Mithrigan being a hit creating some expectation of what this movie needs to be or not be in relation to that?
Yeah.
And I also remember you just talking about how pleasant a time you had in the initial production of the film.
Yep.
And being like, I have been so burned out on the industry and frustrated and heartbroken by these different things. The idea of finding like a very personal story, me telling an emotional movie about the way I feel about my family and keeping children safe, you know, in a world that's a little bit terrifying.
Yeah.
And I can disguise it in just enough horror movie trappings to get it through in a low budget way, unencumbered. And then like a year and a half later, everything had gone upside down. Right.
Yeah.
But you were sort of like, I think I've cracked the code. If it's this small and I have two marketable elements, and it's this and that, the stakes are low enough that maybe they let me make my thing my way and get it out there.
See, I thought I was clever. I thought I was smarter than the system.
But it is a playback that has been working.
Yeah.
That has been like the most consistent way to get kind of emotionally, psychologically complex movies out there.
I think it really helps if you love the kind of product that they want in the end, as opposed to thinking I'm going to sort of sugar this pill. And like, so the movie started when like I was talking to my friend Hani Abu Assad, wonderful filmmaker, and he was like, I was like, I don't know what to do next. And he was like, well, what's on your mind like right now, as I talk to you right now? And I was like, well, I guess, my kids are like spending time on the screen, and a kind of like a worry because you can sort of try to take care of them as much as you like, but like our home is like it's next door to the internet, which is a really, really bad neighborhood no matter what. There's no way to protect people, and that's what the whole movie about is like you cannot protect your children from the world. And then, it becomes like a movie about a killer AI. And by the way, the year in which it was delayed, it was a year for AI to develop to such a shocking extent that anything timely that it had to say about AI was already yeah, we know.
But like you're not getting hired to develop a Walter Beery AI thriller. No. You're looking in the mirror. You're talking to your friend. You're saying,
I'm gonna take this computer down.
Right,
Walter Beery.
Like it wasn't.
Walter Beery's a real guy, Ben. Like Walter Beery was like a classic burly '30s star, B picture kind of star.
Probably exactly what you
mean. With a name like
Wallace Beery.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Wally Beery.
Yeah.
It might sound like an unimportant distinction.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Look at that guy.
But the difference between you, getting hired to make an AI thriller and then going, what's the personal story I can smuggle inside of this versus going, what am I feeling right now? And what is the way I can dramatize that into an idea that is sellable?
Yeah. But then,
there's a big difference.
As it goes through the process of, of the way that studios put out movies, it just gets twisted along the way. And this is no shit, but you go to marketing screenings, and one of the first questions they will ask of an audience is, was there anything that you found confusing?
Yeah,
right. And of course that is priming the pump, because the moment an audience actually has a right to be confused and to not feel as though everything is resolved and explained, but inherent to the system when this much money is spent is a sort of deracinating of the original intent.
I have gone to friends and family screenings, the roughest cuts, right? Of folks just being before we have to go to blind test screening.
Sure, I want someone
studio notes. I want 15 people who also work in the industry or friends of mine or whatever, or cold audiences, but a warm audience, at the same time. And the lights will come up, and I've seen people make this mistake several times, where they go so what do you guys think? Anything jump out to you immediately that you bumped on or that you had questions about?
Bumped on, yeah.
And people are sort of no, basically, this or that. Or they might call out one thing of I missed that line or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. The second a leading question is thrown out, the filmmaker expresses their anxiety about something they weren't sure would work and go, hey, was anyone confused by this thing? Then suddenly every single person in the room goes, now that you mention, I do actually think
you're fucked.
And then starts offering their notes on what it should be instead.
Yep. Yep. You're totally straight to that point.
You can't ask people that.
No.
So Barton Fink, then his I think it's in a way
Coen Brothers movie.
It looks at the studio, right? Yes. In a negative fashion, but also Barton Fink, it is very scathing about Barton Fink himself.
It is,
his
I think,
conceit.
Absolutely.
It is the brilliance of this movie. Is this guy is a fool and he's arrogant.
Yeah.
He's unpleasant.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite Coen Brothers film.
Interesting.
I think kind of without a doubt.
I know it is for many.
Sure. Yeah. I love a lot of the great Coen Brothers movies like Fargo and Serious Man and Raising Arizona and whatever. Oh, No Country. All the whatever.
Sure.
And you could kind of talk me into a lot of Coen Brothers movie, and ranking movies is a little silly anyway, but this movie profoundly affected me when I saw it when I was 19, I want to say. I was in college, and I was sort of, I think I've loved the Coen Brothers since I discovered them as a teenager, but now it's time for me to watch every Coen Brothers movie I've never seen.
Yeah.
And I've only probably seen this movie 4 or 5 times, because it's not, Barton Fink is not a movie you're just all the time hey, Barton Fink's on cable, right?
It's like the Simpsons gif.
Barton Fink. We have to, of course, acknowledge that moment in The Simpsons, which is amazing.
That entire run of the stealth runner of Simpsons jokes that are the kids getting excited in the wrong direction for 90s art house movies.
Right. Always funny.
The Naked Lunch, I can think of 2 problems I have with that title.
Very funny. I'm familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda. It's a slightly different version of that joke. But anyway, I watched this movie a couple days ago to prepare for this podcast, and I was I don't think I've seen Barton Fink in years. I put it on, and I was I could close my eyes right now, and I'd be fine. I know this movie so well. It is so impressed on me. It is one of the most influential movies for me in terms of just mood and tone and the way its story works. I don't know how to describe this.
It's also an incredible film analysis movie. It is a movie that is basically, it isn't consciously designed to be studied, but it's like a fucking playground. If you're someone who has a mind where you want to fucking break apart movies and try to figure out how to read them, you know, and like even this was my second time watching it. I watched it last night. I saw it probably around the same age as you, David.
Sure.
There was, I guess, 2008, 2009. MoMA did a comprehensive Coen retrospective of all the movies they made up until that point. And Barton Fink and Hudsucker were maybe my only two blind spots at that point. They were playing on the same day. I saw Hudsucker in the morning.
Where?
I got lunch at MoMA.
Both of them.
And then I saw Barton Fink. Hudsucker is my favorite Coen Brothers movie. That has to do so much with just my taste and my sensibilities. I do not think it is one of their 5 best films. It is a movie I've watched endlessly, and it means so much to me. And I was just like, holy shit, that's Hudsucker? That's the one that people don't like?
Yes, obviously, I know, and we'll talk about how dearly you love Hudsucker, which I also dearly love. But Hudsucker has your manic,
it's my vibe.
thing. Have you seen Hudsucker?
Yes.
It's got Griffin energy up the wazoo.
Definitely.
The haunted hotel or the trapped in a hotel thing is my favorite thing in the world.
We're going to talk about this at length.
And of course, there are other versions of that.
Yeah.
What are other versions of that?
Shining, of course.
Shining. That's a great example, of course. Yes, duh. Jesus, David. What a genius I am.
That's just my thoughts.
I thought scary hotel. Sorry.
I thought you were just giving me an easy one.
Yeah,
finish your thought.
No, just that I was not disappointed by Barton Fink, but I was writing on such a high by how much I loved Hudsucker and how much it surprised me.
Right.
That in my mind, the Hudsucker for the first time experience always eclipses Barton Fink.
Sure. You by putting them up the same day.
I've seen Hudsucker upwards of 10 times since then, but I got to see both movies for the first time on a big screen with a proper crowd on a beautiful print. Had not watched Barton Fink again until last night. And yet I had the exact same experience as you, where I'm like, I basically remember every single element of this.
It's pretty spare. I mean, right? It's not.
It's very primal in its own weird, eggheady way.
Well, I was thinking about David Lynch a lot when watching this, and I feel like it's a little bit in conversation with some of the aesthetic. Like there's a shot which feels David Lynch, like when just going down the drain.
Absolutely
right. And there's the hairdo. There's Barton Fink's hairdo, which feels Eraserhead adjacent
for sure.
And just that sort of feeling of like everything is just a little wrong. This is so immaculately made. It is so tightly controlled. You get the clear sense from the first frame to the last. There's not a single decision in this movie that isn't intentional. And yet some of it feels deeply inscrutable. And all of it conjures some feeling within you.
Yeah.
Not that Barton Fink feeling, but this sort of like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What is this movie doing and why?
Yeah, I think that may be what won it the Palme d'Or, right?
Yes.
Because I remember when they won, it was kind of like American Boys Bring Home Gold. I kind of had that feeling, right?
It was weirdly the third film in a 3-year streak of American Palme d'Or winners, which was like an unusual swing.
Sex Lies is the year before,
and then Wild at Heart, and then
it's Wild at Heart,
then Sex Lies, then this,
right?
Okay.
And it is of course an incredibly exciting time for American independent cinema and whatever.
By the second half of the 90s, the joke that Billy Crystal keeps making is that like the studios can't get a movie nominated for Best Picture anymore. You know, this is the start of the wave that by the end of the 90s is just like the American independent cinema is exciting, is thrilling. There's something happening here and audiences are engaged, and then that dream sort of starts to die.
Yeah.
But haunted hotels, Griff, I mean, what else? I mean, I'm very dorky of me, but the
1408.
Well, of course, 1408. Do not go in there.
Yeah.
I think it's I told you not to go in there.
Me and my brother
Me and my brother would always fixate on that moment in the trailer.
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson shows up while some shit is happening, being like, I told you not to go.
It's also like, look, it's not like they're ruining anything by putting that in the trailer, but you're like, I don't need to see this scene. I can guess that Sam Jack's going to come back at the end and say, I told you so.
Wait, which I see. I'm
1408 is a mid-sized horror movie from the late 2000s, directed by, I want to say, Mikhail Hofstrom.
Yes.
that is based on, something Stephen King coughed onto a wall once or whatever.
But it is kind of like
it's a short story.
Right. The pulpier, trashier midpoint between The Shining and Barton Fink in a certain way.
For sure. It's a good movie
into a hotel to write a book.
No, it's a guy. No, it's a guy who's like, I'm checking into a famously haunted hotel room because I'm tough and scary, and I know that's all nonsense. And then
the room's
I'm going to take on the really. I love the Next Generation episode, The Royale, for anyone out there listening from season 2, which is about they arrive on a weird planet that is just a hotel that they cannot leave, which is very like a Barton Fink stuff. I honestly may have been directly inspired by Barton Fink because it's just like a couple years later.
You're forgetting 4 really big ones.
And is it a space hotel or is it just a hotel that seems like an old fashioned hotel?
Watch the episode to find out.
Okay.
It looks like an American hotel from the 30s, but there's yes, I'm forgetting, of course, the Hotel Transylvania. But everyone at the Hotel Transylvania has a good
summer
time.
Vacation. Yeah, but it is fundamentally a haunted hotel. You cannot deny that. I'm not saying the movies
I
are
suppose
spooky.
so.
It is a haunted
the hotel haunted?
Yeah, by humans, by Johnny.
That's true.
What about Hostel? Or is that just
Hostel's sort of there, but Hostel, it's obviously quite naked what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
Like, people don't really get to the hostel and are like, this place seems like really comforting and inviting.
There's almost like a richer history of like comedies kind of ripping on the trope, the like Abbott and Costello. Right. I guess those are more like you have to spend a night in a spooky castle kind of shit. That gets more into Shining, Haunted Hill.
I love that too.
Right.
I guess
I'm basically always pro this.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a haunted house and a haunted hotel?
Great question.
Right? What in terms of a taxonomy of scary
because
places?
it's the liminal space thing, which has become this, internet sort of world, right, where people are obsessed with what they call liminal spaces, these kind of like bland, anonymous sort of environments, like long corridors, samey kind of, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, Ben?
I'm
it's a
not
very big
familiar
Reddit.
with this.
I think something about the promise of the hospitality, being like, you are here and you're being taken care of, and yet something feels wrong, versus like, I've just walked into a castle with a candelabra, maybe I shouldn't be here.
Right.
In the first place.
There's some warning signs here, whereas like a hotel, it's like the idea of like, I'm on a floor with 50 identical rooms, and it's one of 15 floors.
Right.
Your head starts to spin a little bit.
Yeah.
Another great example recently, The Eternal Daughter, the Joanna Hogg movie, one of my favorite movies of that year, which is also like she and her mom are at a hotel that no one else is seemingly there, but everyone's kind of behaving like it's normal, and it gets weirder and ghostier. Very good movie if you've never seen it.
It's not, it's not quite the same, and it's only an aspect of the movie, but Neon Demon has a lot of like, what the fuck's going on in this motel?
Weird motel shit. There's a tiger or something, right?
And Keanu,
and there's a Keanu.
But yes, I always find this very affecting.
But this is the best version.
I agree.
The Shining is its own thing.
Barton Fink could have stayed at a different hotel. The studio wanted to put him up in a nicer place, so that was interesting. Because I remember like thinking he's getting $2,000 a week, King's ransom,
right? But he wants to be with the people, the hotel earl.
But this speaks to the movie having this sort of like, get a load of this fucking guy. He thinks this makes him a greater artist.
I think it's starting with the hair, like you mentioned, where it's like he has that hair. Yes. It's to code him as Jewish, which he is, like in this way that, like the Coens like to, explore that kind of like, what is it to be like kind of loudly Jewish in these kinds of worlds or societies. But also like he thinks he can get away with looking like this because he's different and he's artistic.
Right.
And
he's not the only Jewish character in the movie, and there are other people who are maybe trying to assimilate more, but it does feel like, to your point, he's like accentuating the Jewishness almost as an act of provocation.
Right.
Like this guy is taking a stance
Everything
I'm
about
trying to make you uncomfortable.
Is provocative in this sort of like, I'm not like you, I'm not superficial, and I'm not an intellectual, and I'm not a Hollywood type.
Right. He has this attitude.
He is an intellectual.
To every single person he's talking to.
Yes.
A quiet, I'm not like you, and it doesn't matter if the person is higher or lower status.
Except for Mahoney. Like, that's the one guy that he briefly does seem to be quite entranced by, although... we'll get to
You're right. He wants Mahoney to say, you are the same as I am.
Exactly. Right. I mean, or at least, like, I too know your work and I, whatever, like, admire you.
There's actually, like, I just said it. There's the use of the word actually is really interesting in this movie, because there's when John Goodman, when Charlie asks him what he does, he says, I'm a writer, actually.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, the actually is doing a lot of work, because it's like, just say you're a fucking writer.
Right.
But instead, he's like, well, you're probably going to be amazed by this, but I'm a writer.
There's a little bit of like, isn't this charming?
Yeah.
David, we both would give Goodman Best Supporting Actor this year, right?
Good question. Let me take a look. I do think it's one of the most incredible performances, but
amazing.
I'm always forgetting, what could its competition be? So 1991.
I looked at the field, and I certainly would give him the win over the 5 nominees. Yeah.
My 5 nominees, if you want them. Do you want them?
Yeah.
For 1991 for Best Supporting Actor. Are you interested in this at all?
I would love this. Please, David, please.
John Goodman, my winner for Barton Fink. Keanu Reeves for, speaking of Neon Demon, Keanu Reeves for My Own Private Idaho, performance I adore. Yep. Robert Patrick for Terminator 2.
Wagging my finger.
Larry Fishburne for Boys in the Hood, and Samuel L. Jackson for Jungle Fever.
Yeah,
Those are my 5 nominees. Great 5.
Their 5
1991 is an incredible year for cinema because this film came out and The Silence of the Lambs came out, and these are 2 totemic movies for me. There's a lot of other great movies I love.
Where they'll get nominations in other categories, but you look at the things that didn't make the Best Picture cut, and it's kind of bananas. Like you have Singleton nominated for director, but not picture. You have this nominated for supporting actor. 2 Craftwords, kind of insane. It didn't even get a screenplay nom.
Inside Baseball. I
think this movie was too niche, like for whatever the Oscars. I mean, I can look at the nominees.
This argues in favor of there being upwards of 10 Best Picture nominees.
It would have made the 10.
I was at a discussion in the director's branch of the Academy in our sort of conference room in which...
I might slot Barton Fink over Grand Canyon or Bugsy.
Yeah.
I'll just, no offense to those movies. A huge offense to those movies.
No, you're right, I think.
Oh, you were in a discussion. Sorry.
We were discussing whether to expand the director's nomination thing to 10
for Oscar.
Yes.
For DGA.
Yes.
Oh, for DGA.
And
wait, for the DGA or for the director category?
For the director category of the Oscars. I'm probably gonna get kicked out of the Academy now. But and Steven Spielberg says no, I don't think so. I don't even think there should be more than 5
pick nominees. But that battle has been lost.
Right, but he wanted to roll it back.
I said, as someone who has not won Best Picture, I'm in favor of there being as many as possible, which obviously shows a lot of balls on my part. Like I should be so lucky.
Was Spielberg amused by your little bummo?
I wasn't joking. I mean, I was trying to dress it up.
Was he amused by your?
He didn't seem overly amused, but he didn't seem to like want to sanction me either. He was very nice.
I mean,
there's also at the time it was framed as like the Oscars need to do this because they seem out of touch and things have trended too indie and they're ignoring blockbusters, and maybe the 10 will make things a little more open. I think there's the other thing, which is just like it's good for the fucking industry in a time where it's harder and harder to get serious movies made. To let 10 movies brag about being Best Picture nominees.
I think the 10 thing has been an unambiguous success.
I agree.
I think the minute they moved it to, it's between 5 and 10 was less good. Putting it back at 10 has been better. Right. There's rarely a true kind of like, how the fuck did that get a nomination?
Yeah.
Like even the stuff I don't really like or whatever, I'm sort of like, I can see, where this thing's support came from and all that. I think expanding director to 10 would kind of ruin that.
I do.
Well, but there's a problem amongst...
And then, of course, everyone's going to start expanding everything to 10. There is a snowball.
That could happen, but in my branch, the problem was for the directors, are there movies without directors? Like, are you saying that there's going to be somebody who's...
But that's always going to be the case. That's the thing.
Because there are always Best Picture nominees without a directing nomination.
If you have 10 and 10, it's still not going to line up most of the time. Like, you're going to have the weird, like...
Well, that would be especially harsh.
The true fix that is so clear, and I'm weirded out that the Oscars have never done it, is that a director should get a nomination for Best Picture no matter what.
They should be
They should be included in those nominees.
Agree. Yeah.
It's so obvious, and it's like, I don't know why the producers insist on I don't know what that discussion has ever been, but
take it up with Yellowstock and Bloom. Yeah.
Nominate the producers too, but tack on the director. That's what they do for documentaries. That's what they do for, the other feature film categories. So that's my take.
The thing about the Academy and the problem
Hear that,
with
Oscar?
the problem with independent films, kind of dominating a nomination, and the Academy thinking like, oh, we're not going to be relevant if the number one box office film isn't nominated, blah blah blah. Okay, we're in a country in which there is no public funding for film.
The big
right,
thing.
and this is the big thing which Barton Fink has to deal with as well.
Yeah,
and that why it's different in France, where the government will considers film an actual art form that deserves support. Most other countries,
Britain,
and here it is
like that. Yeah.
So here we are in this kind of capitalist setup, and I actually kind of realized I sort of can't direct studio films anymore because it is impossible to skin the cat so that this is unashamedly, it is making movies for money, right? I get it. But then there's art sort of is inherently crowded out, right?
Yeah. It's tough. I saw Seth Rogen was on Stern talking about the studio, a show that I'm unsurprisingly loving, that it feels like it was made for me. And when people had described it to me like a year ago when it was being made, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they're giving him the money to make that. That sounds like so scathing. I will find this cathartic to watch, assuming it was going to be as acidic as like The Player, which is clearly a big influence on that show, down to it like sharing a character name, right? And my surprise in watching the show is that it's like trying to hold the things that are great and the things that are terrible about the industry simultaneously and very close together.
It's quite a loving show.
Yes.
Like, and it does more, I would say, nibble at the hand that feeds that like outright chomp. Like it's sort of about how people in that industry want to make good movies.
Well, he's like, the Rogan character is kind of a Barton Fink figure who's like, I've done it. I beat the system. I've somehow become a very young studio head. And what I'm going to do is somehow sneak important movies back in. And this guy thinks he can be Robert Evans.
Bit of a buffoon.
Original sin.
Right. And like it represents his quest as good. Like this is coming from the right place. And yet you just watch this guy fuck it up and you're like, dude, this is never going to work. And he was giving this interview on Stern, and he said, like, the thing that's great about the industry is there will be one movie that changes everything forever in many ways. You basically get, like, one of these movies a year at least, where you go, like, Barbie changed everything forever.
Right? Or at least for a long time, that's now what people are chasing.
Change upon change.
What was it this year, though? What would you say? Was it Anora? I mean,
you mean last year?
I mean, last year.
I mean, here's the thing. You could, like, a month ago, I would have said, like, Minecraft is the movie that's, like, changed everything. And now Sinners has already replaced it. And by the time this episode comes out, but you're like, Sinners is a movie that is going to change the way people have discussions in fucking boardrooms.
Sinners is the one changing things and not a Minecraft
You don't know. But the point is these things can happen,
and
right?
multiple things can happen.
And the thing he said that I thought was really profound is that, like, it's great timing for David as I'm getting to the big...
Just leave the door open.
It takes this insane kind of hubris to think, like, I can do it. I can beat the system. I can sneak the thing through and make it work and be lauded as a genius and change things culturally for the better.
Yeah.
And that's so insane and hubristic to think. And yet people do it. They do it all the time. And if you're not chasing that kind of glory of, like, kind of slipping one past people and somehow, like, changing the landscape for the better, then why even bother trying?
I think there are some filmmakers who have the wind at their back, who are stubborn enough, who are talented enough to, like, you know, actually sort of do that. In any given period, I think there are like 5 filmmakers who can work within the studio system, and you know, they are going to be able to have a really good shot at getting what they want done.
Yes.
You know, Scorsese, I like still. Christopher Nolan. You know, there's a few of them.
But people lose it all the time. People win it back. People have it for a moment. I mean, it's like it's the whole fucking framing of this show.
Yeah.
That, like, it's not always a lifetime status. And also sometimes the movies that change everything aren't good. You know, they're not net positive, but they do break a certain line of thinking in the way that, like, Barbie, you're like, Barbie is a triumph, and it has felt like the last 2 years you're watching with every deadline announcement, all of the executives take all of the wrong lessons from it.
People are trying to get that
Barbie
feeling.
And Barton Fink is right. This guy who, like, does not want to work in the movies is almost disgusted when it's proposed to him. They have to sort of, like, launder the pitch in this sort of credibility of, like, you know, this is like what all the other serious novelists and playwrights do. There's nothing, like, loathsome about this. And he's justifying it as, like, this will help me build the theater of the people. Well, and is that contempt with which he comes to the thing, combined with his arrogance of, I'm such a good writer, I should be able to crack this and do it better than the swill that they're settling for.
Right. And of course, it's 1941. Movies are not exactly new, but it is a younger industry.
But the industry
it's
a
nascent art form. The
industry
industry is
formed.
Settled into a cinema
machine.
is art.
Yes.
obviously, it's not like nobody talked about cinema as art before the 60s or whatever, but I do think it's the 60s is when people, or the late 50s, start to form proper sort of theories and academic sort of notions of what film is.
Film analysis as we know it today.
So yeah, the 40s, it was still kind of like, yeah, well, this is, this ain't the theater. This is swill for, the working man.
Right, the possibilities. It's the studio system, so you're signing up to a system in which you're going to be assigned pictures.
Yes,
right?
you're on contract for one studio, and you do what they want.
I mean, it's interesting because Barton. So his agent says, this is going to be great and everything, but Barton Fink is he doesn't really appear with seemingly any kind of energy to want to do this.
No.
He's just kind of spaced out throughout a lot of the
media.
This entire movie
doesn't seem appealing to him, and he doesn't even seem excited by the idea of what he could leverage the success into. Really,
he is in a fugue for pretty much most of the movie, like a weird kind of dreamy. The movie exists in a dreamy state. The latter half of this movie, could be called essentially a dream. Like, it's not like this is a movie where someone wakes up being like, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But, he always feels like he's passive in a scene.
Yes.
Even though he's the center of the scene.
Yeah, which is not Sid Field,
right?
3-act structure kind of thing.
This is such a watchable movie for a movie where not much happens, and it's much of its plot is inexplicable, or much of what's going on is sort of it's not. That's what the Coens are so good at. It's kind of a perfect screenplay, even though you'd be bananas to teach this screenplay as an example of anything to, structure your movie as. It's so watchable, and every scene is you're kind of leaning forward, what's this now?
I went to McNally Jackson the other day, and I saw that they had one copy of this, which is Ethan and Joel Coen Collected Screenplays 1. So it's Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink. It does not seem like they maybe ever published Volume 2 or on, that this is just the same one. That, I mean, at least a compilation. They would do separate.
Pet peeve, I hate when, I love that Faber and Faber publishes these things, but I hate that they're not in the format of a screenplay. That is to say, it's not a page per minute, which is the general guide to when you're going to be.
They reformat it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be really interested in what the descriptions are in
This
Barton
is the
Fink.
thing, and I had heard this from people. And I guess I've read excerpts when people post a page or two of some of their scripts. But I saw this and I was like, I want to have this so I can fucking leaf through this, especially with these first 4 movies. They are so sparse. They really are just the absolute least amount of information that needs to be conveyed to the reader.
Interesting. So, because I was thinking, the reason it's watchable to me, even when it's kind of a punishing film in the way that this film I think kind of is
a little bit.
You never know when some funny shit is going to happen, so you're sort of always on your toes,
or
right?
some scary shit.
Yeah, or there's going to be a great sight gag, and I think that they're really clever, in that way. They will resort to comedy in order to sort of keep the artistic kind of arc of things going.
Yes.
Barton Fink, I'm opening the dossier because, we should look at it. Famous story of its genesis that a lot of Coen, because the Coen brothers are discussed, but also just because they do set their legend quite firmly, I feel like, where little anecdotes, because they don't give a lot of info out.
Coen masterpieces come while making other plans.
Right. They're trying to script Miller's Crossing, which is their third film, the film they made before this, and they get a bit of an impasse because that's a complex film about rival gangster, mobs, and there's a lot of...
The movie they had made up until that point.
Right. And I think they find it a little boring. They say they were not blocked exactly, but the rhythm was sort of fucked up and they weren't having fun.
That's a movie that has to be more concerned with mechanics, where even if you're not stuck in writer's block, you're doing math. And I think these guys, they talk so much about that, when they have an idea for a movie, they talk back and forth about it and work it out in their heads. And then once they start writing, they write pretty quickly. And I assume it must have been really frustrating for them for the first time to be stopping and going
doesn't make sense because he knows that guy.
Right, so you have to go to the index cards.
They get out of their problems with that story by thinking about another one. They take a vacation, and the vacation is Barton Fink. Has 2 primary points of origin. One, they wanted to work with John Turturro, who is in Miller's Crossing, but obviously they haven't made that yet.
Right. But he's a guy on their radar.
They know him. He's obviously somewhat up and coming. He's worked with Spike Lee and stuff. But they also love this idea of the hotel. Before Hollywood, they have the hotel. are
was when they were
setting as a
filming
neglected hotel.
Blood Simple, right? They said they
Yes,
saw a
they were
hotel
in a
that was
creepy
the worst
hotel
hotel they'd ever seen.
in Austin, and
Yeah.
they were kind of like, it's like hell, motel hell.
Right.
What if you could never leave?
Right.
They also had worked with John Goodman on Raising Arizona.
More like John Greatman.
It's very, very true. More like John the Bestman. And come on, that was funny.
We have made a really
10 comedy points. Wait, am I allowed to give
You're
it?
allowed. You're allowed.
And they certainly write this role for him as well.
The most fascinating
Charlie
thing,
Meadows.
I mean, it speaks to the other day we were singing the praises of John Goodman. Things have gone well in blank check scheduling in 2025, and that we have a lot of Goodman to discuss.
True.
That
We've
we had
discussed it
always
before.
That we had our live show, and now we have a lot of Goodman in the Coen series. And you were talking about how he is an actual undersung genius in his execution of characters.
Oh God, I think I feel like I talked about this on the podcast before, but like that moment in the Flintstones trailer where his foot is
He's doing the
is
peddler,
torn.
the sure.
It's so upsetting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to talk about that for a second.
He's a genius.
Always.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a Goodman's we've discussed before. Obviously, we've done
Flight.
Raising Arizona at this point. Flight.
Princess and the Frog.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Sure. I mean, we must acknowledge Speed Racer, of course.
Speed Racer. He is Pop's Racer.
And he's wonderful in that.
Mhm.
Is that it?
Possibly. And we're about to double that if that's the
We're
whole
going to
lineup.
obviously do a bunch more, but
Yeah.
is there, because he's been in
There has to be
so many movies.
Something else I'm forgetting. feels
Does there? Have to?
Feels like it.
Not sure that there is. No.
At this point, they have worked with him, and he has now been on Roseanne, right? And he is starting to be accepted as one of America's most lovable people.
Right.
Who
And they
can't
like
love John Goodman.
They like that, but then they like his more menacing side.
What I love is that they were like, oh, you know what'd be fun is to weaponize that and
Yes.
use how much the public is just naturally endeared to John Goodman and pull the rug out from under them. And they said the second they started filming, they were like, this guy is so proficient and nuanced and thorough in his work that he's finding ways to color in the menace even in the earliest scenes. That we thought of this as a very like
The
one-to-one.
turn comes later.
He starts out sweet and adorable, and then it's a surprise this guy turns out evil. But instead, he's playing this weird balance of like unease and pity and arrogance and scariness and like pathetic. It's and Turturro in the same way was like, guys, I like the way you wrote this character. I understand you've made him sort of an annoying pill. Will you trust me to try to put a little more humanity into him? I would like to try to put a little more realistic feeling into this guy so he's not just kind of a setup for a punchline.
Yes.
Right.
And he says that they gave him a degree of ownership of letting him deepen it, not by like changing the text, but changing the characterization a little bit.
Yeah.
Wrote the script in 3 weeks, as they say. They tend to
Just
work
expelled
quickly.
out of it.
So the
Jesus
film
Christ.
was ready. The script was ready, and so then when they go back to Miller's Crossing and then make Miller's Crossing, when it's like, okay, what do you want to do next? They were like, here's Barton Fink. It's ready.
Right.
It's done. We want to do
Same
it.
financiers and everything.
They decide to set it in Hollywood's golden age, but obviously, as you pointed out, they are not basing this on their own experiences, which had largely been pleasant. Like their movies are produced by Circle Films, this indie company. You know, their first few movies. So like, which is basically they'll be like, hey, here's this weird script, and Circle Films would be like, great, we can give you this budget, and they'll be like, great, well, we'll use that to make the movie. Thank
and
you.
their trajectory up until this point was just boop. It just was straight up. Like
Yes.
these guys are with each film proving that they're the real deal.
Yep.
I think you're kind of right that my framing was a little glib in that it really is Miller's Crossing and Barton Fink coming out within a year of each other that is like a combined guarantor. After I think people thinking that Raising Arizona was a little silly and being like, okay, so these guys are really good stylists, but do they have anything to say? Is this all like genre riff lark stuff?
But yeah,
And then Miller's
David's right.
Crossing and Barton were seen as like, oh, these guys have thoughts.
But also, yeah, and since when did that mean that you get to make a big movie? Like
That's
not
what's
recently.
crazy.
Wow.
Like that's the
It's a
thing that
different
doesn't
time.
happen anymore is like two movies that are so good
Right.
that even though they weren't hits, the industry's like, fuck, I guess we got to see what these guys did with a bigger budget.
So, the 1941 setting is most important to them. They want it to be right as the war's about to begin.
Mhm.
So then that informs the Hollywood thing, if that makes sense. They wanted this kind of the verge of madness
Mhm.
and this idea of during that time when like suddenly the country empties out of normal people, like in terms of like sort of fit, you know, like 20
Yeah,
to 30 something
yeah,
men. Like
yeah.
now it's like the country has a strange emptiness to it. Classically, as the Coens always say, like, we didn't do any research or anything like that. They always say stuff like that. And like when they're adapting a book, they're like, we read the book. And you're just sort of like, I just don't know whether or not I should take them seriously.
Well, you know what's the other part of it too that JJ dug up is that they were like, no, we didn't really do any research for it. We had over the previous 10 years read these 20 books.
Yes, that's the thing. I guess they have books in their bloodstream already. There's a book called City of Nets, which is about German expatriates in LA in the 40s. They have the book called Faulkner in Hollywood that's about William Faulkner's experience working as a screenwriter, where he never drank to excess.
I feel like they are just constantly digesting things and retaining it. And it feels like anytime they develop a new project, they're like, oh yeah, we have this filed away in our brain. All this accidental research we were doing.
Yeah.
And then, there's this very superficial sort of resemblance to Clifford Odets, who is one of the great playwrights of the sort of red 30s, this great left-wing playwright who then goes to Hollywood and is not like Barton Fink in that he has success and also drinks himself like crazy. But the character's look is modeled on George S. Kaufman from the Marx Brothers movies and stuff, who looked like that.
Right.
I mean,
people
he had
were
the big
like,
hair and
oh,
the
they're taking Odets and exaggerating it. And they're like, no, we're just doing Kaufman directly.
Right. And they, they're like, Barton's a shit, but we do love our characters, which I think is just generally always true of the Coens. Like, they love their characters even when their characters are unsympathetic.
And is a thing that I think now, going back to your earlier point, I think they've basically been accepted as undeniable now. It is funny to read the criticism of the first 15 years of their work, where so many critics were kind of folding their arms and being like, not so fast. This sort of we shouldn't be so quick to anoint a potential false god and treating these guys as serious filmmakers. And there were a couple different strikes that would be thrown against them. And one of them was they're so condescending. You see this repeated. They just have such contempt for all their characters. Their movies are just mocking all these people all the time. Isn't this exhausting?
They can seem glib and condescending, but I do think they love their characters.
I agree.
I think they take great pleasure in them, right?
I think that's always been a misread on their work.
It's the same thing with Mike Leigh. It's the same thing. People really struggle with people who write and create direct quite unsympathetic characters, where they're often sort of misreading it for they're making fun or they're, whatever, casting.
They also love making movies about idiots, but I think their magic is that they dramatize idiots with compassion.
Absolutely.
While also understanding what's fun about having a stupid character driving your story.
Now, Blood Simple's, JJ's pointing this out and he's right. Blood Simple is a neo-noir film. Yes. Very obvious. Raising Arizona is a cartoon comedy film. It's a little, more outside of genre, in terms of you're like, wow, I haven't seen something like this in a while, but it's a cartoon movie,
it's
right?
It's a Chuck Jones chase picture, basically.
Yes. Miller's Crossing is a gangster movie, with all the sort of fucking trappings and fittings and all that. Barton Fink, I do not know how you describe this movie to anybody. It's not really a horror movie, but it's got sort of a horror stuff to it. It's not really a comedy. It's a very black sort of strange comedy.
They always said their single biggest inspiration was the Polanski one person going crazy movie.
Cul-de-sac and Repulsion,
which
that makes
beyond
sense.
The sort of haunted hotel thing you were talking about, there are a few things I am more just kind of innately in the bag for than person in some sort of weird state of isolation slowly losing their mind.
And then other people
it is a thing I relate to way too hard, and it just almost always works for me as a setup for a film.
And then so people raise their hands and are like, the movie reminds me of Kafka, right? Yeah. Very, very obviously. And they're like, I mean, I guess we read Kafka in college, but weren't thinking about him.
It doesn't just feel like they're sponges and they retain everything, that they have a fucking library in their brains. I also love that whenever they talk about books they've read, it sounds like they're reading in tandem. They always talk about we were just reading No Country, and then at some point went maybe this would make a good movie. And I'm like, so how's this breaking down? Are the two of you
they sit together?
They both go to the library
sleeping in a bed,
holding hands.
Right? Are you holding the same book? Do you have parallel books? Are you like Bert and Ernie?
They get their own books. Brothers get their own copies. Obviously, John Mahoney is cast because he looks so much like William Faulkner. It's crazy. They don't have to do much to make him look like Faulkner. Faulkner was someone who occasionally enjoyed a drink. I cannot deny this. Sure. He had more success in
not
Hollywood.
This level. He was not
Probably not, but like they're just adjusting the dials, obviously, right?
Mahoney, one of the great secret Brits,
unbelievable in this
but
way.
no one knows he's fucking British because he trained the accent out of him.
Yes, right. He's kind of fake British, right? Because he was British, but then he came to America as a 18-year-old because his mother, I think, was a war bride, and that was enough to kind of to move him.
And of course we've lost him, but he would always say like, I trained it on my system, and yet when I hear myself perform, I still feel like I hear the inflections and drives me crazy.
Michael Lerner to me obviously looks like Louis B. Mayer,
sure,
but is kind of based on, I feel like, a lot of Jack Warner, like a lot of those,
and had already played both Jack Warner and Louis B. Mayer in other projects.
He played Jack Warner and Harry Cohn, two different studio guys in TV movies. I mean,
he's a mashup.
He is, but I mean, Michael Lerner is just. He's outrageously good in this movie. He gets its only Oscar nomination, which is acting nomination, which is kind of crazy.
Yes.
Not that he's bad, but it's just crazy that was the one that snuck in.
Also, if you look at the precursors that year, it felt a little out of left field.
He gets LAFCA only. Right. Like that was the one. Like the Los Angeles critics gave him Best Supporting Actor, and that was
the spread is really weird because like Goodman gets a Supporting Globe nomination. It gets no other nominations from the Globes. Yeah. Right. I think it does get a Writers Guild nomination.
I can look.
So this is interesting that, that the Oscar, because I was talking earlier about Mommy Dearest, right? And how that movie, which savaged, a Hollywood legend and Hollywood in general, turned its back on Faye Dunaway,
Right.
After that.
It was radioactive and then had to be reclaimed decades later.
But in this case, no offense, bad.
It's not a good movie.
Right. Yeah. It's very watchable and insane, but it's not like you're like, a gem. You're like, wow, I can't believe this made.
You're right. Not only did people hate it, but they were sort of like, Faye Dunaway, how dare you attack your own?
You are toxic, right? But with Barton Fink, the guy who plays the monster, I mean, maybe because he's a fun character as well, or maybe it's like saying, well, we better own this. I'm trying to think of what the Oscar voter is thinking in that point. They're not saying like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
How could you despoil the memory?
It is funny that they're like, great job playing an evil studio exec. But he is also just a guy. Lerner, where they're probably also just kind of like, you know what, you're never bad. And like every scene you're in that movie is funny, and his final scene is hysterical, where he's in the fake military outfit.
Sure, but in terms of Goodman being a rising star and like America's favorite and whatever, it seems like an obvious Oscar play, and yet I think it speaks to people not totally. I think.
Maybe that's
let me say this: it speaks to maybe the most successful people in Hollywood, i.e., the people who are members of the Academy, especially at this point in time where it's a more selective group. Being less receptive to this movie.
He made one other movie that year in 1991.
Goodman?
Yeah. You know what it was?
King Ralph.
King Ralph.
King Ralph.
Hell yeah.
So was King Ralph his Norbit?
He was having a good year.
We were thinking of giving you an Oscar nom, but that King Ralph movie. No, I don't.
I think this
or maybe it split the vote, Like that's why he didn't.
I think this movie, even if they didn't find it offensive, probably made successful Hollywood people a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would say. I think Goodman didn't get a nomination because he's creepy and scary.
And I think Michael Lerner is like, not to be reductive, but there's also just an aspect of like, it's a skill piece performance. Yeah, he's got 3 monologues where he talks nonstop for 8 minutes.
I mean,
you watch
it's a
it
worthy
and you're
nom.
like, undeniably what this guy just did is like complicated and difficult to achieve on a technical level. And the Coens are so deliberate in their coverage that you're watching him do it with minimal cuts.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of like, well, yeah, obviously, look at that guy. He's acting.
Right. Film cost $10 million to make, was shot for 45 days. And they filmed it at a hotel. Dennis Gassner, the great Dennis Gassner.
I love Dennis Gassner.
Have you worked with Dennis Gassner?
I've worked with Dennis Gassner on The Golden Compass. He was nominated for the Oscar for that.
Obviously,
that year.
An A-tier, production designer.
This got art direction and costume, right?
Yes.
He's a member of my camp at Burning Man. I have to say, shout out Shashrem Galactica.
Is he really?
He is. I invited him to join my camp at Burning Man. Go on. Sorry.
No, please shout out.
And his camp is all like peeling wallpaper.
A little bit.
Mosquitoes.
So they're right. They find this weird Art Deco place that's falling apart. They use a lot of green and yellow, as we sort of mentioned, in the color of the movie to suggest putrefaction. Like just kind of like everything is
not to be
very fleshy.
Not to be hyperbolic, but it is just one of the most viscerally rendered and realized locations in the history of movies.
It is incredible. Obviously, Barry Sonnenfeld has heard the snap of the Addams Family.
His fingers are running very quickly along the floor, attached to nothing but the rest of a hand.
So they lose their iconic director of photography, and they turn to Roger Deakins, who obviously then works for them for 30 years, basically.
Yeah.
Who I don't think at that point was much of a major name.
Had done Sid and Nancy was the biggest crossover.
Right. I mean, another not so secret Brit. And yeah, I mean, like his biggest credit before then is either Sid and Nancy, or if you want like a bigger budget thing, like Air America, but like not
that was kind of his only studio movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they liked his work on a movie called Stormy Monday. Obviously, they'd also seen Sid and Nancy.
Stormy Monday. Yes, I actually saw that movie in the theaters.
Do you remember how it looked?
It looked fantastic. I love that Roger Deakins shot Air America, because in every great cinematographer's resume, there are movies where you're like, what?
Right.
It's like what's the Vanilla Ice movie that was shot by Janusz Kaminski or something like that? Yeah,
Cool as Ice.
Yeah.
Well, it's also just because basically from Barton Fink on, there is no movie you would be surprised to hear was shot by Roger Deakins, right? Like Air America is maybe the last time where you're like, huh.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
For every movie on from that point, he is
Everybody
a
wants
clear,
him.
like,
What are some other
an
weird
authorial
ones?
voice in the film.
Yeah, you know what? He shot The Siege. That's surprising for me to learn. Ed Zwick's The Siege.
Yeah.
He did a lot of Ed Zwick movies, though. He did Courage Under Fire. Yeah, I don't know, man. Mostly it becomes like, he shoots, the kind of movies you think he'd shoot.
Yeah. The shot of the drain.
He's stuck in the Mendes verse. He gets out of there. The only shot he had trouble with was the plug hole shot that you referenced.
Sure. Yes.
Was very tricky,
which Joel and Ethan say he made fun of them for, and then every time
Still makes fun of him to this day.
exactly, they're like, okay, so here's something we want to do with this weird shot. He's like, as long as you're not making me track down a plug hole.
For
like,
3 decades, it better not be a plug hole shot. Like
I feel like the boys were a little on the nail there, going down the drain.
Hey, man, it's early in their career. You still want to try stuff
too. Yeah. It's just like the grossest version of that joke.
So let's talk about the plot of Barton Fink.
Yeah.
It's 1941. We begin with Barton having great success on the Broadway stage or off, whatever. Like it's Broadway.
Standing at the wings,
making
clutching
a picture
his
for
script.
Yes,
and he's
a play for the people.
He just looks so fucking weaselly.
Self-satisfied.
He's like,
the expression on his face, which he maintains for the entire movie, is the most unflattering, kind of gormless.
This pathetic focus, this pathetic concentration.
There are few guys who would have that. Like sort of, whatever risk. Like, like John Turturro is so happy to play that. Like, Miller's Crossing is like that. Quiz Show is like that. Where in Quiz Show, most actors would be like, I want to make him a little more like sort of straightforwardly likable. And Turturro's like, no, I can do this. Like, I could be the most annoying guy in the world.
Quiz Show is a movie where the premise is a real true life story that a network.
It's just like he's so fucking annoying.
This guy's so annoying. We have to figure out a way to get him off this fucking show. The entire scandal is a byproduct of like people hate watching this guy on TV.
So funny. He's so good in this movie.
He's so good at this kind of like gormless shit. But you're just right. It's amazing how much he conveys wordlessly in these first couple of shots of just like this guy's sort of like self-obsession with his own work. His sort of like absolute on edge. None of this actually makes him happy, even when it's going well.
That's right. He doesn't do the thing where you see him subtly mouthing the lines, right? Which you almost have a screen memory.
He does do at the start of the
He's doing it very faintly.
When it goes fresh fish, is that like that's
yes, right. But he's doing it in a way where it feels like he's on edge, worried they're about to fuck it up.
Right.
Like I've seen directors do it where it's really charming because it feels like they're living their
so much,
movie. Right. It's so deeply in them, they're not even aware they're doing that. And he's doing this like in this very clenched way. Yeah.
And so pretty much right away we're at Capitol Pictures, right? Like it's like he does the play and then he's meeting with Michael Lerner. And there's the great Michael Lerner.
He's being
scene.
wined and dined by these like rich patrons of the arts who he's immediately like, you don't get it. I'm like trying to do a service for the people, the people's theater. It's a movement. Like this guy just can't even accept a fucking compliment.
He's a prick. Yeah, he gets talked into it. He gets talked into this contract by his agent. I presume it's his agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's so much more money. I guess was what lured everyone west, right? It's like you're not going to actually make any money writing plays on Broadway, even if they're sort of well received.
No, and it was like for the first time, right, the Hollywood machine has been built up properly. The sound picture is an established thing. People want language in their movies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The
It was
transition
the beginning
actually
of this era of like, if you are successful, if you are a respected novelist or playwright, that's nice and all, but what you really do is you leverage that to go out to Hollywood to make some money, to keep doing your own
right,
shit.
Exactly. You have the money to keep doing your own shit. Right. The actual dissolve is, or fade, or is to the beach, the rock, the waves up against the rock, and then to the hotel. This recurring motif of the beach, of like, what does it mean? You guys can, throw your theories in.
See, that's
like
another very lynchy. It's a lynchy thing about this movie to me. Or maybe
from purgatory. Yes, go ahead.
Maybe it's the other way around, because it does seem like that's a very lynchy shot, right?
Sure.
And like it feels like it's sorry to interrupt, David, but it's like it's in conversation with Lynch in some way. Who is first to certain kind of textures and feels. Because the hotel is very, very Lynchian, I think. The
yes. I mean, anything with Chet, a tiny role for Steve Buscemi, where he's the bellhop. Yeah. I love that, like, there is a wall of keys behind him. Like, it's like fucking, 10 stories high, with so many keys in it, where you're like, are there other? You never see anyone else there except for Goodman.
Right, correct.
Like, and that's my favorite thing about any haunted hotel. Like, the implications, like, there's other people here. You just don't see them.
But there's shoes outside of the
Shoes.
doors.
Yeah.
So it's showing that there are people, but you never see them.
Correct, which is a really smart choice on their part, which is like a really clean visual language to let you know these other rooms are occupied.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
you're hearing the voices, you're seeing the shoes, you're not ever seeing anyone else's face.
$2,000 in 1941 is the equivalent of $41,510. So that's per week.
Yeah,
that's per week. So he's getting paid shit tons.
Can we unpack this for a second?
That is bananas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what's the implication that he'll be doing this for a month, for a year?
I want to unpack this because I feel like this goes into a point you started to set up a little while ago, right? The uniqueness of America not having any investment in funding its own arts, right? Like an investment in cultural enrichment. Right. I was talking to a friend of the podcast, Sam Clements, who works for the Picture House chain in the UK. And we were talking about the difference in financing and funding in films and how things feel weird in the UK. And the things like the film lottery have started getting gutted and it's harder to get the things made. And I was like, I think when I talk to my friends working in the American film industry, we're so envious of there being any program like that. And he was like, isn't the Sundance Lab kind of like that? And I'm like, the Sundance Lab is that having to be created.
Right. It's like a prize you win.
Right. As like being created by not a government, but a successful artist being like, this kind of thing should exist, leveraging his entire career to make that.
It's like charities filling the gap.
And then even then I was like, here's what it is. It's like you submit, you get accepted, you get this beautiful sort of like sojourn, staying with other artists, working with them, having actors at your disposal to workshop the scenes, getting all these mentors, and then you do a presentation, and at the end of it they're like, well, we hope that one of the people who saw this presentation wants to give you money to make this movie. They do not help you make the film. And then the hope is if you find money for it, you maybe stand a better chance of getting into the Sundance Festival, which would maybe then lead to distribution. But all of it is still like, you're having to piece it together so thoroughly, right? And in this country, we just decided that we don't give a shit about this. But the way the movie industry used to be run, the studio system, which was dissolved for a number of reasons, and it was seen as a bit of a victory that now the power has gone back to the artists, they control their own careers. I think long-term, I've been thinking about this a lot, I think was maybe a fatal mistake that has fucked the industry forever in terms of eradicating the middle-class artist.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. I don't know how I feel about any of that, but okay. All right. I mean...
The studio system was largely eradicated because the biggest stars didn't like the lack of freedom, and the biggest directors, the biggest writers, the people who had some level of clout didn't have a ton.
There was not much tourism or anything, really.
That's the point.
The studio directed all art.
They were,
and they controlled the theaters.
They did not feel like they had agency, and
they didn't have agency. They literally didn't.
Correct.
It's not a feeling thing.
No, correct.
They were bound to do what the studio told them to do.
Correct. But there was a model that sort of made sense. Let me unpack this.
We're moving on.
We're not moving on. This is a Barton Fink episode.
There was steady employment.
But I don't think Barton Fink is a movie about how the studio system was good.
No, let me unpack this. You have to let me finish my point. You can't cut me off and then say you're wrong.
Okay, finish your point.
There was this holistic system of like, we own the real estate, we own the machinery, we own the equipment, right?
It's called a monopoly, but yes, go on.
Yes.
You went to eat with all the other writers and directors.
There was a sense of community.
The mess hall,
that kind of thing is kind of cool.
But it was also like there's sort of controlled costs because we own the means of production, right? We own you. We control you.
Marxist.
You're under our salary, right? I mean, this is a little bit what Hail Caesar's about. It's a lot what Hail Caesar's about.
There's certainly much to discuss about this in Hail Caesar, which is more about the machinery of the studio system.
And if you're a star or writer director who's like proving yourself and you're like, why am I still like subject to the whims of these people owning me? You start to want to destroy this system. What ended up happening long term is basically everything collapsed, and now it's like Warner Brothers loans out their sound stages to other production companies, which like becomes both a form of money laundering and a way of intensifying costs across everything. Same to their post-production facilities, all these things. But also, no one in this industry has any fucking job security anymore, right?
That's true.
There used to be this impetus on the studios in exchange for them owning you, which was basically they'd go to someone like a Barton Fink and say, we're going to pay you $2,000.
$40,000 a week.
And we have a reason to keep throwing work at you because we're paying for you.
Preston Sturgis was the highest salaried individual in America when he was at his height. And actually did have a certain degree of control because once you were compelling as a figure in and of itself.
Right, but he's one of the only ones who...
He figured out how to make himself a little more of a celebrity and a
earliest writer-directors, and obviously most of these guys did not even get written, like, credit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, their names are not on the movies.
There'd be fucking drama school showcases, and a guy would get up and do a monologue.
The whole point of Mank, the great film Mank, is Mankiewicz being like, I think I actually want credit on this movie. I think it's good.
Yeah.
And Wells being like, that's not how this fucking works.
Right.
Ever. I am, and Mank's like, I want it. Sorry. Like, please, for the first time ever, I'll actually make that fight.
You'd have like a drama school showcase and someone would do a good monologue and Paramount would be like, fuck, why don't we get that guy under contract? And now the impetus is on them to figure out how to make this guy's career work.
In 10 movies.
Because we're paying for him. And so we just need to throw him at the wall and see what fits.
But then they could just cut you loose.
They could. Look,
and you had nothing to point to.
It was not a perfect system.
No, it was a horrible system. What are you talking about? No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
The problem.
I remind you, you don't work in this system.
Griffin, we are not. No, people should be able to have agency in their careers.
What happens now is that people don't work.
It is. I would say the big problem is that it is really fucking expensive. It is the most expensive art form in the world. This is like, oh Christ, what the
problem is that there are less studios. There used to be like there were the majors, the mid majors, then there was what do you call it, Poverty Row and all that. There was so much competition. Movies were desired by the public.
Yes.
The reason there are less jobs now is movies are not desired by the public anymore. Now we can argue like, they are, and see how these movies do well. But it's like, they release most movies. People go to the theaters less. There's way more competition for thing that you watch. Back then, there was nothing else you could watch. People lined the streets to go see movies. They would sit in movie theaters all day watching, some good movies and a lot of garbage because it was like, what else are you going to do?
Well, they gutted their own business model in a way that reduced the value of any single project into a product that was part of a library to boast.
They did that, but it's also television got invented and video games got invented and phones got invented. It's just a zillion other things competing for attention. There was a monopoly
of fewer people controlling a greater majority of jobs that has to do with a lot of removal of stigma of what is beneath you or above you, and just certain people grinding so fucking hard and like just being like, I'll just do everything. When people have a hot streak, they just like run the fucking table and block other people out.
But it's just right. But there's less demand.
But I think to this other point, it's like it is so expensive to do this work, right? In any sort of way, especially the work to prove that you're worthy of being paid to do this work. It is a pay-to-play industry, which is why
there's another reason it's more expensive. people are paid fairly because of unions that were created after this.
But now the studios are doing anything they can to circumvent unions.
No, but back then there were no unions. And people were treated like garbage and were paid poorly.
No, but I'm just saying, like, as compared to like poetry or painting, like you get some paint, you know,
the capital
ink and paper.
is
like
very
inherently
different.
Yeah, it is really fucking hard to do.
In exchange
it is really expensive.
for signing over your freedom to a studio, the other thing they would do was fucking invest in your career and be like, we need to spend the money to control your publicity and your fashion, your style, and all this sort of stuff. Increasingly, when you read like fucking Sydney Sweeney complaining that she can't pay her mortgage, and people are like, how is that possible? You're like, in order to be Sydney Sweeney, you have to pay like 40 people out of pocket to do the things that the productions used to do for you.
Right.
And that's
to
the most
maintain that
successful
particular
level
Sweeney
person.
say that?
She said that like
said
2
it a few
years
ago.
Yeah.
Well, I Googled Sydney Sweeney mortgage. She recently
What
paid
is her
off
mortgage?
her mom's mortgage.
Hey.
So Sydney Sweeney's doing all right now.
Oh, that's
I think
good.
that she escaped
That's nice. She's
the
taking care of her
euphoria
mom.
verse.
Sure.
But well, she didn't escape it, but she has more things going on.
But it is another thing that is depicted in Mank when he or when his nephew arrives, and you got this bullpen of like 40 writers who sit around all day and are just waiting for basically like the lottery ticket to come and be like, you got to sign something, do a pass on this, do a treatment on this, you know?
Yeah. But Mank is also about a man in that system who realizes that system is poison that is destroying America.
Yes.
That he works for capitalist pigs who will, you know, make art that prevents people from having political thought.
I think we
Mank is not a movie that's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Hollywood is working. You know, like that's a movie about a guy that ends with him barfing on the floor.
I think we replaced one broken system with a different broken system, and the system right now functions less.
What you are talking about is late capitalism, which is what we live in, and it is true of most industries now.
And
the industry I work into, media, where it's like people come to me and they're like, how do I climb this ladder? What's the path? And I'm like, there isn't one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can do X and Y, and you can hope for the best.
But luck is like more than ever a humongous.
It's who you know, and it's that maybe it's, you know, something opens up right when you're lucky, or maybe the, you know, sort of some stupid guy. Yeah, and this is true in movies too. Is like, maybe I'll like devote a bunch of money to something, and then after a while he's like, well, that money's gone and didn't work, so I give up. Like, you know, you'll have little booms like that, which is sort of what like the tech companies are right now,
which are good. But I also,
but it's sort of Apple being like, let's do it, and it's like it doesn't hurt them to do it, but there might come a day where they're like, when
they lose interest, it's a fucking nightmare.
Right?
But it goes
that will
back
never
to
happen.
Like,
no,
on
of
my
course
watch.
not. Of course not.
Cinema being an emerging art form, right? That America is able to sort of corner right at the beginning and decide this is how these things are made. But from the get-go, we're deciding this is capitalist structure. This is machinery in America. That's what I'm saying.
Do you suppose that there will be a patriotic film fund? Right, because it was announced that what was it, Mel Gibson and I don't know, Kevin Sorbo and something were going to be ambassadors to.
But I don't think the government wants to do that. They like the idea of like people being able to set up something like Angel Studios and make money off of doing it.
I think the only time America's ever been really interested in that is
like FDR,
the war,
right.
Obviously, every other country does it, but that's because many other countries. For them, it's also sort of like we are producing something that speaks to our country that makes it interesting for people around the world. Yeah, like. And America doesn't need to do that because they, you know, the American brand is loud.
But also, a depressing majority of our population would have absolute ire and disgust at the idea of their tax going to art.
Which, of course, happens in Britain, where they're like, I can't believe my tax dollars paid for that crappy movie.
Garbage.
You know? Which, people complaining.
Come on, Ben, swing in.
I kind of want to see the patriotic movie.
Like, just like, could it be called The Patriotic Movie?
Sure.
Like TPM?
Another patriotic movie.
I'm going to say
that'd be the sequel.
I'm in favor of seeing it as long as Trump writes and directs it himself.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I love the idea.
He's so busy. Let's just have him write it. He doesn't need to direct.
I think it'd be good if we got him out of the office for a little bit, got him on a set, got him really hyper-fixated on a project.
But I love the idea. I mean, we are in a culture war. So it would be a wartime movie.
It would be. Apparently, we're being invaded.
So it's like first there was the war on terrorism, and now there's the war on culture, or whatever. Right.
But it's like all the people you just listed off who would be involved, like everyone potentially who would sign up for that kind of project.
They're smart.
It would be terrible.
Brains
it would be
better than ever.
Garbage.
Cognitive function. top.
And it would be exciting to then see that get released and then just have all the people who champion the film, the project, the ideas of the film, then just be like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. Oh, it's not good.
Or try to like maneuver around. But actually, it's good if you really think about it.
I feel like every time.
I didn't like it the first 5 times, but now I think I get it.
One of those movies gets made, like the Christmas movie. What was it called?
War on Christmas? Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
No, the one where it's like Michael Moore has a Christmas Carol happen. An American Carol. It's sort of like, and it comes out and everyone's like, this is bad. Then it's just like, well, let's never speak of this again. Right? Like, it's not like one of those things where people do try to be like, no, I'm going to watch it. I liked it. Like, it's just kind of like.
Well, this is the fallacy every time. Right. But
people actually want to see Sinners. Like, everyone wants to see
correct.
That. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they not because of politics or any other reason. They're just like, I don't know. I heard it was good.
Yeah, I mean,
they go see it.
Right. There's so much of the media landscape has been dominated by this idea of like DEI initiatives are being rolled back, and like the identity politics era of Hollywood is over, and things are now going to go back towards like catering towards the conservative, Judeo-Christian audience. And then you look at the box office, and you're like 3 of the top 6 movies of the year so far have predominantly black casts.
I mean,
like exponentially more successful than the movies that in theory are targeting Trump's America.
You can make a Korean animated movie about Jesus that's told by an animated Charles Dickens.
Do you know there's another animated Jesus movie coming out this year?
I made it.
Okay.
It's called Another Animated Jesus Movie. No, you can do that, and that might hit because people are like, well, the nativity story is a pretty big one.
And if you release it Easter weekend, it's kind of a gimme.
But sometimes then there are those more sort of like niche faith movies where they're like, it's about the triumph of the human spirit, and people are kind of like, pass. Like, whatever.
But like,
let me know when the Thunderbolts are in town.
CGI Jesus movie is just barely
a movie.
Well, sure, but barely passing one of them days. A movie whose success remains under discussed.
Good movie.
Yes.
What is one?
It was a comedy with SZA and Kiki Palmer.
Written by John Singleton's daughter, Soraya Singleton. It's a really, really good movie.
And it's just the kind of movie they used to make more of, which is a smaller budget, but studio comedy that's very, kind of lo-fi and funny and good.
To your point, David.
My point.
This is an era where the machinery of Hollywood is working so beautifully and the public cannot get enough movies.
It's all they got.
And the idea of
what are they going to do? Listen on the wireless?
Right. We can afford to just have a room full of drunk writers who are just each pitching in a sentence or two, and they present it to him as just like, this isn't fucking rocket science. This is one of 2 wrestling movies we have to make every year.
They assign him a picture. Right. This is like, it's like worth remarking on.
Do you want a dame or a kid? Like, there's a formula here, and you decide like the binary choose your own adventure path.
My screenwriter mind, when they said, is it about a dame or is there a dame or is there a kid? And my mind went, both. And then Barton Fink goes, both. And they look appalled at the idea.
Yeah.
Right. You need a movie to fit a certain formula because people are like, I want to go see a movie about this.
This will actually work.
Right. And it's beyond elevator pitch. It's just, it's a wrestling picture. Great. I love wrestling pictures. I like to watch wrestling on the big screen.
And the thing you get so much from Lerner's performance, what I think he captures really well is you're just like, this guy is overselling it so hard.
Yeah, he's laying on the mustard.
He's laying it on way too thick of how much he respects artists, right? In a way is
writers
bullshit.
First.
And you're just waiting for the shoe to drop. And in reality, what he really wants is like how a lot of our biggest budget franchise movies work right now, which is like, we're going to hire someone with a little personality so they can just hopefully put 2% personality on our formula. But by and large, let's just stick to the formula.
But it's also the implication I have from Barton Fink is he gets to do this. You're going to be treated well, put up in a hotel, paid a lot of money. Then he produces the first script. We don't see the rest of the movie, but the reaction to the first script is like, no, this is not what we want. This is way too arty-farty.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to make movies the Capitol Pictures way. And you get the sense that he will quickly be bumped down the ladder, right? Like it'll be a little more.
He doesn't know how to play the game.
You need to go with the pigs, in the slop and like learn your trade.
Well, it's even like you will never be. You're never going to work on anything again. We just own you. You're gonna keep on drawing a salary, but nothing that you produce. I mean, this is by the end of it, right? You're talking about nothing that you produce is ever going to be used.
Right, which the Mahoney character is kind of stuck in that sort of
which is why he like his everyday is that he he vomits, one assumes black bile, and then it's like, okay, time to drink all day. Like, that's how he's dealing
and
with
they
life.
like pay him with contempt to keep ownership of him.
Sure.
And you get the sense that this guy probably for the last 5 years has had one good idea a year.
Right.
Like every year he gives them one dialogue exchange or one notion of how to fix a scene.
Yeah. But yeah, they're being paid to keep their field fallow, right?
Right.
Is basically the deal.
I mean, Faulkner didn't write, all of his most famous novels had already happened.
Sure.
And famously, he got to Hollywood and was like, can I write Mickey Mouse? I like Mickey Mouse. And MGM was like, that's Disney. And he was like, I don't understand. But like, you know, like, like he didn't really get like that idea. And instead he did, you know, a bunch of movies. Like he wrote like 50 movies or whatever, credited or uncredited, that no one remembers.
Here's what I want to say. Just going back to the plot a little bit, or not the plot, but the flow of the movie.
He famously, Faulkner, just want to say that he has a credit on The Big Sleep, which is one of the most incomprehensible screenplays ever written.
Sure.
Yes. It's a great movie.
But also is constantly cited as like, this script doesn't even make sense in the movie script.
Right. And that's sort of when we start to think about the auteur theory and Bogey and Bacall and all that.
But there's
because
a little
I've
bit
seen
of
The
like
Big Sleep
nobody
3
knows
times,
anything.
And I do not know what the answer to the mystery is.
Yes. No one knows.
I think you can be told, and even if you're told, you're kind of like, I don't understand.
If
And they're
you
like,
say
don't worry
so.
about it. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Forget it. It's write it down.
Casting Buscemi, having Buscemi play it as cheery as possible and not a fake cheeriness, right? He's not going over cranked, but it's like speaks to the Coens already at this point being so smart about how to use actors and their energies of just have Buscemi go straight down the middle, put no creep on it, and that will be unsettling.
Yeah.
There's something about Buscemi just being kind of like quiet and kind that feels a little off. And also just his introduction, back to the shoes, Ben, his introduction as Barton Fink walks in this fucking lobby that's empty, and then like a trap door opens from the floor.
He comes
and
from,
he comes out
from
of the
beneath.
basement with shoes. And you're just like, what the fuck is going on underneath this hotel? A thing that is never even touched on again. Like a mystery that is just sort of like quietly seated at the beginning, and then so much else happens. And you're like, is there a whole world of drama going on underground? The implication of the shoes outside the door is that the residents or the transients are leaving their shoes out every night to be shined and polished.
Yeah.
And that he's going down there. But you're like, are there other people down there? Does Buscemi spend every night shining 100 pairs of shoes?
Yeah, it's fairy tale
right
kind of logic.
And then he gets up to this room, and immediately it's just unsettling.
He's a schmuck because he's being paid $40,000 a year.
Yes.
I mean, a week.
A week.
And he chooses to stay at a shitty hotel.
Yes.
But you don't feel as though he's scrimping and saving in order to start. He's not like making phone calls about how he's finally going to rent a theater back in New York.
He doesn't know what to do with money. It's not like Barton Fink's like, I'm about to go on a shopping spree. Like Barton Fink's got his thing figured
I want to see him in Rodeo Drive.
Would be fun.
And he gets turned away by the mean shop girls, and later he goes back and asks them if they sell on concession.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
But, thank you. Huge. It feels like this idea he has of like, I need to be amongst the common people. Michael Lerner's offering, with Polito, get him a fucking mansion, put him up at the nicer hotel, put him in my guest room. He won't allow any of that stuff to happen.
John Polito, of course, we love to see him.
Great John Polito.
I mean, just the roly-poliest little man.
We'll have talked about him a lot last week.
I mean,
because Miller's Crossing is his biggest Coen showcase, right? Like,
we
obviously, he
haven't
made a
recorded
lot
that
of movies
episode
with
yet,
them.
but I promise we won't give him the hi-hat in that episode.
No, we won't.
But Polito has been kind of edged out of the Louis B. Mayer role here, right? Because normally he'd be the guy who'd be playing the Louis B. Mayer part. So there's actually something there's like real pathos to the fact that he's meek in this one.
It almost...
The late John Polito, right? He's no longer
I
with
think
us,
so.
right?
It gives Lerner's character a little more power. Where you're like, if I've seen the first 3 Coen Brothers movies, to see Polito be like
nudged
simping to
down.
this guy,
right?
It's just like, how fucking hot can this guy run? But the other part of it with the hotel thing, beyond just whatever he thinks his like artistic philosophical principle is of needing to be in a real place with real people. It's also, to my mind, the recurring imagery of the beach is just like, This guy wouldn't know how to fucking function on a beach.
Well, and he doesn't when he
you
gets
put him
there.
on a mansion.
He's in a fucking three-piece suit.
He's going to be miserable.
His usual
wearing
Right. So there's this idea of
the Barton Fink action figure doesn't have other clothes.
Right.
You know? He's got the one thing.
the idea of looking at a picture of a beautiful woman on the beach isn't like that's the escape, that's the fantasy. It's sort of like that's the idea of that being my idea of a fantasy. That a well-adjusted person would look to an image like that as an idea of a serene thing to strive for. And for him, he would never be able to enjoy it.
It's also a hilarious mocking thing to have on the wall of that dingy room.
Right.
Where they're like, but for a little color, we'll hang that one picture. And it's just such it's what the Coens are so good at in their entire career. The more you look at it, it's like saying a word 1,000 times.
Yes.
The more you read strange things into that weird, cryptic, anonymous image of the back of a woman on a beach.
Well, and then it is like the fulfilled prophecy thing. This is like the David Lynchy thing again to return to, where it's like, if you want to try to read into this, like what is it's not a time loop, obviously. You don't want to like read like too much into it, but the girl at the end purposely adopts the pose that
exactly.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's right. You're mirroring everything. I mean, when I saw this movie for the first time, I guess well over 15 years ago, I until rewatching it last night had held on to my interpretation so strongly of, he is in hell and John Goodman's character is Satan.
Or he's in purgatory or whatever. Yes.
Right.
And
But I remember like feeling so strongly John Goodman's character is the devil or some equivalent. And watching it last night, I did not feel that way.
It just sort of is.
Not at all.
And
it's
I
what it is.
In fact, I love this guy.
I don't think I was. Yeah, this guy is maybe God.
I think interpreting him as a sort of demonic figure is perfectly acceptable.
Sure, I wasn't like, what an idiot, what a misread I had. But it speaks to sort of the weird Sphinx-like quality of this movie.
Yeah.
That you can watch it one time and go, you know what? It's 100% this. It's this and this is how these other elements support
the
it.
Coens do not make movies that way. I feel. Right.
And
they're purposeful misleads.
They're not like,
John
you
Goodman's
missed the point. They would be like, do what you want.
But it's so much a reflection of what you're bringing to the movie as well.
Ben, what do you want to say?
Well, what I wanted to share what changed for me is that the first time I watched this, I was so aligned with him and his
were
pretentious,
the frustrated artist, right?
Perspective.
No, new school poetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I majored in creative writing at
Nice.
the new school. Watching it this time around, what really struck me is he's saying he's this like voice of the people.
Yes.
And yet is not actually comfortable interacting or being in the space with these type of
He seems
people.
to hate people.
With anybody. He cannot handle talking to anybody.
And
then is incapable of writing a piece of work that is for those people.
Correct.
He's so above writing the wrestling movie.
Right.
And
He
yet
wants
is
to
saying
write
the whole time that he is like, has the audience who would want to interact with that work in mind.
His
it's
goal
so funny
is to write what he thinks the people need rather than what they
polemical
want.
kind of dick.
This is the Preston Sturges thing. This is Sullivan's Travels, right?
Yes. It's the best moment in film history, but certainly in Sullivan's Travels is when they interact with simple quote unquote art and it moves them beyond anything.
And Preston Sturges is like one of the single biggest influences throughout the entire Coen Brothers filmography, down to Oh Brother Where Art Thou being
being the movie within the movie.
Sullivan's Travels.
Yeah. But no, but did you?
Oh, that's
more?
it. That's all I wanted to mention.
Although,
I did want to
then shut up and get out of here.
Hey, come on.
A palate cleanser, actually. No, I want to tell this because this is getting pretty heavy. Did I ever tell you my story about meeting Brad Pitt the first time?
Bradley Pitt,
who you've never directed in a film.
Never directed in a film. Okay, so my girlfriend at the time.
You didn't direct Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas?
I wish.
Okay, carry on.
7 Seas in that picture.
My girlfriend at the time was cast as the one of the neighbors in Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Okay, sure.
Right?
A film with many a neighbor.
You are in that film as an actor.
I'm in that film as an actor, and here's how that happened. The casting agent thought, it would be funny if Chris, this is my girlfriend Heather at the time, who was going out with Heather, played her husband. And then Heather was like, I don't think I want to be like playing second fiddle to the Angelina Jolie part, so I'm out of here. She dropped out, right? And I was like,
so who replaces her?
I forget her name. Lovely
it's
actor.
Rachel Huntley.
Well, there you are.
Not
Rachel
a
Huntley.
name I know.
But you still end up playing
I
this
was
next
like,
door neighbor character.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm
I
gonna wait for them to fire me.
Brad Pitt,
as
Angelina.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
So then,
wow, this is the only movie that actor was ever in. Weird. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the only IMDb credit.
So there I am, right, on this set, and there's Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and I'm playing their neighbor, so I have a couple of scenes with Brad, which is pretty freaking funny.
Man, I need to rewatch this movie because I haven't seen it since it came out.
It's really funny.
It speaks to how much I have always been me, that I remember seeing that movie opening weekend and going, oh, weird, that's Chris Weitz.
That is really
I immediately
intense.
clocked, oh, wow, that's the writer-director of About a Boy.
Well, I would have known. I did see Chuck and Buck. No, not to bring up all
That's
your
the other
acting
part.
credits,
Yes.
which you are a
That
major
is that
role.
you've now
You're
covered all my
a
acting credits.
titular character.
I was.
But okay, all right. So you're in a couple scenes with Brady Pitt.
So I'm. We're starting the scene. I was starting to shoot this scene with Brad, and of course, it's fucking surreal, right? And I want to make it clear to him that I'm not going to be very good in this scene because I'm not an actor. I'm a director. So,
Temper your expectations.
yeah.
Brad.
So I go to Brad. We were just shaking hands, and I said, "Look, I just want you to know I'm not actually an actor. I'm actually a director." And I can see him take it the wrong way, and the way that he is taking it is, oh my God, this guy is some kind of freaking lunatic who wants to give me his script, right?
Right.
So
You're like, really what I want to do is direct.
Completely.
Between
Not
you and
like, I am an established director with credits to my name.
So, and I see his soul retreat into the back of his head, like it's clearly something that he has done before.
Yeah.
And I realize that I have lost this moment with Brad Pitt completely. Yeah. I am now just a lunatic to him. And then we do our scenes. He shakes my hand and actually I see him one more time. I see him one more time, which is the year that Demian Bichir is nominated for Best Actor for A Better Life, and he should have won. But and he's like telling me what a great time he has. He's like, oh, I'm hanging out with George and Brad. And
is that the Descendants Moneyball artist?
Correct.
Year? Okay.
That is, yeah.
Both George and Brad were nominated for Best Actor that year, but of course we had to make room for Jean Dujardin.
Yeah, and his
his
big leading man career since then has proven that he deserved it. And so Demian, we're at the SAG Awards, and Demian brings Brad by and introduces us, and I see the penny drop with Brad Pitt. He's like, oh, okay.
Oh,
6 years later, he's like, oh, that guy wasn't full of shit.
Yeah, no, to his credit, he was somehow remembered, and he's like, oh, yes, we've worked before. And I was like, oh, God, thank God.
What's so funny, too, is that your function, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, is basically to be like, look how poorly these guys fit in with normal suburban couples.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And my memory is that you're sort of talking at him, trying to make neighborhood small talk.
Yeah, we're talking about golf.
Right, and he's just not really locking in.
All right, that was the palate cleanser.
That's fascinating. Your co-star kind of has a Christina Applegate sort of styling and look to her, but I guess is not Christina Applegate.
No, but I think that's was they're going to that trope of
married
suburban
with children.
Yeah, suburban.
Interesting.
Goofballs.
Yeah, let's pick up back with the plot though.
Barton Fink.
Right. He's been instructed.
He goes to the
Benjamin.
producer.
Lerner basically just fucking
Gives him the hard
monologues
sell.
to him, says so much. He's walks out of there reeling, doesn't even know really what to do. It's not really until Shaloub calls him in.
Yes, that he even knows what to do. But then we go to, I've got the movie running.
Okay.
Go to the hotel. Him struggling to write. He just has the ambient sound of traffic intro to his screenplay, right? The sort of the streets of New York.
He's also writing the same thing he just
it's
wrote.
the sound of the streets. But here's the interesting thing: there's a really bad translate in the back of this set, right? It's not believable, and there is no there is no traffic noise. Right. So it's that's another weird thing about horror-ish thing about the movie is that the hotel itself isn't set in any proper atmosphere.
When you say translite, just for our listeners, that's a translucent light, backlight,
a backing that is semi-translucent, so that you feel as though light is hitting it properly.
Yeah.
But it's it's a purposely bad one. I think.
Odd, right?
Yeah.
And then Goodman appears, and
So Goodman appears for the
almost-
first time after the Lerner meeting?
Yes, and it's
Okay.
almost like it almost could be like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or whatever. Where it's this kind of garrulous,
Yes.
working guy. He's an insurance salesman, And he's got that kind of like, oh, a writer, like, oh, I wouldn't know about that, right? Like, and
but
Barton thinks of himself as like, oh, I'm here to, stir your soul and to understand.
I'm doing this
you.
for you. And then it's just perfect characterization of just immediately he's not listening to this guy.
No.
He's explaining to this guy why he cares about him while ignoring everything he's actually trying to say.
And he's talking about how hard his job is.
Yes.
And then Goodman
the life of the
starts
mind,
about,
how painful the life of the mind is.
Right.
He calls him a working stiff.
Yeah.
That's so fucking rude.
Right. And he thinks he's saying it with respect as, I see you. Don't think it goes ignored that you live a life of misery. There's this innate condescension to everything he does. And yeah, like, not to jump ahead, but there's such a good detail for me in him extending to Goodman, if you're ever in New York City, reach out to my parents, they'll give you a meal.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is basically his one act of unambiguous kindness to this guy.
Yes.
Even if it's a little self-serving of like, I want to be the kind of guy who offers this up. And once again, I'm not offering hospitality. I'm extending my parents to you for hospitality. But I do feel like
it's like you'll have some kind of welcome in
right.
in New
I think
York.
it's also him being like, I have cred. I have
Totally.
like working class parents that you can.
But that also feels like him saying that in that one moment is maybe the thing that stops Goodman from murdering him.
Well, but he may have murdered the parents by the end of it, which is kind of interesting, right? Which to me, like, links up with No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah.
Which is that Anton Chigurh goes and kills the wife of the protagonist.
Yeah. Is that all real though? Well, we can talk about it.
We could talk about it. It's the roller coaster of Goodman's performance, where he's just vacillating so quickly between like charm and sadness and menace and like, emptiness and gregariousness and all this sort of shit. But I do think the way he plays that moment of Barton Fink extending that to him, like, Goodman really slows down for an instant. You see him really process that, and it's like he clocks it like, I have to remember he's one of the good ones. Obviously, he's going to turn on him by the end of it, but I think so much the way Goodman plays this is this kind of like, son of Sam, this is a guy who is like answering to higher voices he is hearing, right? Of what he feels like he needs to do. And there are sort of these like moral tests he's imposing on people, which you hear about from these sorts of like serial killers, where they're sort of like, this is the moment that made me realize I had to kill this person, versus this is the moment that made me realize I couldn't do it.
Of course, my favorite serial killer is Hannibal Lecter.
Well, we love him.
The late great, as Mr. President Trump would call him.
The late great, but you know what? Very kindly, many other countries are sending all of their Hannibal Lecters to us.
But what I love
every day
about Hannibal Lecter is that it is canonical, and as the books go on, more and more clear that like, he kills people if he thinks they're rude.
Yeah, the free-range rude.
Right. He's just kind of like, you're fucking rude. I'm gonna serve you up for dinner, bitch.
You do hear when you dig down like fucking serial killer rabbit holes, there's a lot of that.
I don't like to do that.
They're looking for the excuse of someone doing something that they perceive as a social faux pas or rudeness, and then saying, like, now I have permission to kill you.
But I don't think he's a serial killer. I think that's all fantasy or whatever. We can talk about it. A crucial image after Goodman leaves is the wallpaper peeling, the weird red kind of like flesh like wall beneath it, right?
Yes.
Behind it,
the, like membrane and the like the thick sort of like,
right, everything's too gooey and thick, like the hotel's alive, which rocks. The next thing is Shalhoub, who is the producer type guy. My favorite thing about Shalhoub, apart from everything because he's so funny, is that when they have lunch, he's got whiskey and milk, and he keeps forgetting which one to drink from first at the time.
It speaks to how like on fire this movie is, and this era of like
that Shalhoub's like the 7th best performance in it. Right, he's rocks,
and it's like almost undeniably. And Shalhoub's one of my favorite actors in the world, and this is one of his best performances. And yet, every time I'm like, right, fuck, Shalhoub
he's
is
in this movie,
and he's great. But I feel like this era of like PTA was doing this and the Coens were doing this, where there was like a wave of filmmakers who all recognized like, holy shit, there is an incredible class of character actors who have been doing good, like supporting work in studio films. And what if you just start building entire movies out of just these guys?
Right. Not just use one of them. Right. Have Mahoney, Shalhoub, Buscemi, Judy Davis. Well, Judy Davis, a little Michael Lerner, even Goodman. 100%. The next scene is the bathroom where he meets Mahoney. who is a William Faulkner or whatever type, a sort of effete Southern, not effete, but a sort of like genteel Southern man with the bow tie and the handkerchief and all that.
He meets him like puking and like writhing pain.
But had the worst puking noises, maybe in cinema history.
Which the movie
amazing
has
puking
already
noises.
set up like the chaos of the sounds of the people on other sides of his room in the hotel, the constant like, speaking of the haunted hotel thing, but just that weird thing, and you can feel this in apartment buildings as well, where you're just like, I'm hearing noises that are both too specific and too abstract.
The line that gets me, right, first is that he's puking into the toilet and then you see him pick up the handkerchief from the floor.
Yeah.
But it's not that he says sorry about the noise, but he says sorry about the odor.
Yes.
And you're just like, what the fucking out of him?
Yeah.
It's so bad. But then, of course, Barton recognizes him as this esteemed novelist.
I'm always
like,
very
"You're the
distressed
greatest."
when people vomit in the movies and then speak closely to someone else.
I feel like vomiting in the movies is one of the hardest things to get right. It happens all the time, and there's the classic kind of, tube next to the mouth, which has become almost like, it's like we accept that fake feeling as real. Because you can't do it real.
I've had to do it multiple times, and it is...
Have you always done the tube, or have you also
they
done
put
the thing
stuff
where it's
in
like
your
something's in your mouth and you kind of get it out?
I've done it 3 different ways. I have had 3
What's your
different
favorite
big
way?
vomit scenes. I've had like fully rigged up. I've had we're going to comp this in later with CGI.
Oh, wow,
and I've had you're
CGI.
holding stuff in your mouth and you have to expel it.
Which
I would imagine holding stuff in the mouth is the best.
But you can't get much out then.
Yeah.
And whenever you see that version of it, you're like, yeah, he had like...
and
Right,
and
there's
here's
no
the
sense
thing.
of
It's
the threat.
the easiest to play releasing the thing. It is the hardest
Sorry
to
for
play
all the vomit
everything
talk.
leading up to that, which to me is almost more important. Of like, how do you play the build? I don't know why
Suppressing
people
it.
always ask me to fucking puke on screen.
Blank, well, you look sickly.
That-
you
okay.
look like you're on the...
You know what? You're
and
right.
you know
That's
what,
the
Griffin?
answer.
I'll call you out. You have vomited on Blank Check.
This is true.
As
Check in,
has
mate.
Ben. I have yet to do it, but Decade of Dreams.
Decade of Dreams.
Like, who knows what the next 10 years hold.
During an actual recording, or you made it to
in the Patreon
I meant to
car
the-
ride episode.
Ben did
I
it
guess-
on mic in a car.
No, I think Ben actually did.
I turned the recorder
off right before it happened.
the only reason it wasn't on mic was because Ben was fucking fixing it from the inside. I went to the bathroom. I didn't.
Griffin exited and then returned with, I just barfed.
You know what?
I
In fact,
threw up in Alex Ross Perry's car.
Yes.
Decade of Dreams, the episode I vomited on.
in the car. Sorry, we did, sorry. That's it. Like, was it cleaned up? Like these things
yeah.
bother me.
Yeah,
I was
aimed into
able
a
to
coffee
find
cup, right?
like a loose shopping bag.
Ben, no,
Or no, was it a cup?
no. We had gotten Dunkin' Donuts.
I was not in this car.
You finished your iced coffee. Then you removed the lid and puked into the cup and then put the lid back on and acted like you were going to get away with it. None of us would notice. And I called you out.
Even though there were
That's-
like 4 to 5 of you in the car.
Correct.
Right?
No,
I think that's pretty smooth, actually.
I was resourceful, and I was not gonna be like doop-de-doop-de-doop. I was gonna be like, we need to pull over.
You, Ben,
Griffin.
you puked entirely in the cup. Your aim
Good
was
job.
good.
Yeah.
You made no other mess.
Was it like a venti? I mean, like,
was pretty
or
tall.
whatever
It was
Dunkin'
pretty
Donuts
tall in my
equivalent.
memory.
Big Dunkin' Donuts.
And then I
Okay.
saw you kind of go like this and turn the recorders back on. And I immediately said, Ben, I need to acknowledge what just happened. I called it
We
out
need to
before.
address
But you know
the
what?
elephant in
Ben
the room.
he knew
You know.
it had to be on mic. He knew what it,
Exactly.
Right.
I just want to connect a dot here.
Everything is copy. as
The
they say.
episode where I puked, I said, hold on, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I got up, I went to the bathroom, I came back, and I just vomited.
You did.
That was our Starship Troopers episode.
True.
And that was the episode.
Which was the episode after which we met.
Exactly.
Because I loved
You
that episode so
tweeted
much.
about it and
Yeah.
said, this is a great episode about a great movie. And we were like, holy shit, Chris Weitz listens to this podcast. And we messaged you. If I hadn't puked in that episode, we never would have met.
That's beautiful.
Full circle.
After that, he meets Judy Davis, who was kind of, I feel like sort of her peak acclaim. Like this is when she's just becoming such, like she's not an actor people talk enough about anymore.
No.
Because her peak was the sort of early 90s.
I also think she had a notoriously big ego.
Well,
And there
you
was
know
a
what?
little bit of a...
So do I.
You know the great anecdote about her.
No, what is it?
It's one of my favorite Hollywood stories of all time. That she's working on Passage to India.
Right, early in her career.
Maybe her first film. Certainly her
Not
first
her
major
first, but
role.
her first big movie.
Right. And David Lean's come back after 20 years on the bench.
Yep.
And they're having an argument over the way to play a scene.
Yeah.
And she said, why should I listen to you? What have you done?
Wow.
And he said, Lawrence of Arabia. And her response was, I mean, what have you done lately?
Well, she had him there.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest
Nothing.
burns of all time.
I love that she didn't take that lying
Take
down.
the
She
burn.
was
No,
like, I'm
just an
coming right
immediate
back at
pivot.
you. Brief encounters, old.
Yes.
Don't care.
One of the worst lines I've ever heard in a movie is from Sex and the City 2.
Great movie. Lawrence,
when,
I know what you're about to say. Please, go ahead.
When, I forget which character
Samantha.
was it.
Samantha.
When Samantha sees a hot guy and says, Lawrence of my labia.
Yeah. What, you thought Carrie said that one?
No.
You thought Charlotte busted out Lawrence of my labia?
That's fair enough.
The thing about Sex
Ben,
and the
can you
City
just do
too,
a quick note just for the edit? Chris misspoke. He said one of the worst lines I've ever heard. I think he meant to say one of the best lines I've ever heard.
The thing about
We could
Sex
just
and the
do a
City
pickup
2 is
later.
you want to just toss me what the runtime on that movie is?
I believe that one is a tight
12 years.
145 minutes.
You were off by 1 minute.
Okay.
It's 146, baby.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Because Michael Patrick King was like, no, they need another minute. Not 225, 226.
Yeah.
One of the worst movies I've had to like sit through in a theater is Sex and
It's
the City 1 is
brutalizing experience.
right. Sex and the City 1 is not a particularly good movie, but like you're kind of like, yeah, you know, there's some stuff here for everybody. Whatever. We're all drinking cocktails.
Yeah.
Sex and the City 2 is a little bit of a sort of like slow cinema, like art house punishing.
Also,
I feel like that movie
Bela Tarr.
Right.
pushed me into a depression, actually, watching
fair,
that movie.
Fair. Yeah.
Because I just thought,
And you haven't exited. Have you seen Sex and the City 2?
I never have.
Yeah, it's not very good.
I've only seen 2 episodes of Sex and the City ever.
Well, then I think you shouldn't start with Sex and the City 2 if you want to return to the
No,
franchise.
I'm going to start with 2 and I'm going to go backwards.
You should start with And Just Like That, and then keep,
Oh, you're right. That's what
the
I should
latest
do.
episode.
I'm going to wait for it and just like that
and
to
then
end.
wade backwards,
And then I'm going to
against
go
the current.
Memento style.
He meets Judy Davis, who's his sort of
She's phenomenal. in this movie.
incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
She's
Just to be clear, I think she basically never misses as an actor.
She kind of didn't miss, but it's this era.
Yeah.
It's like Georgia, Alice, Barton Fink, Naked Lunch, Husbands and Wives. Like that's the Ref. She's amazing in.
Husbands and Wives, people kind of thought she was going to win the Oscar, and it is
some stuff happened.
it is one of the most transparent on camera. An actress clearly is just miserable that she's lost. Watching Judy Davis's reaction in the telecast is amazing.
But
the worst performance.
I think
Yeah,
like the Ref is kind of the end of Hollywood
Interesting.
taking her very seriously, which maybe it's because she was tough to work with.
But then she'll show up in like 2 scenes in the breakup and be
she's still in
incredible,
stuff,
where you're
right.
like, this is a nothing part, and she's somehow making a full character.
She's in Marie Antoinette.
Oh,
like,
sure.
You know, like
Yeah.
occasionally she'll still pop up.
Yeah.
She's great in this. And she's the
Yes.
Mahoney's wife or partner or whatever.
She's his assistant,
Mistress,
who's
right,
also his mistress.
but who's eventually revealed to be kind of his muse slash. She's kind of the wife
Ghostwriter.
from the movie The Wife.
What if there was?
Exactly, where she's kind of writing some of the stuff for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think part of what makes this performance so effective to me is the way the movie is set up. You're like, oh, here's the third lead, right? She's entered.
Yes.
And I assume the rest of the movie is going to be him ping-ponging between these
romantic
2
drama,
other characters.
right?
And-
will play out there,
Right. And then she dies so much more abruptly than you're expecting, but she somehow, within only like 3 scenes, gives a full enough performance that you feel like she's wedged in your mind as like an important character, where it's that jarring when she's gone.
Right. Her role is mostly her going like, Mr. What's his name in the movie? Mr. Mayhew. Mr. Mayhew is indisposed while he's like, in the background.
Like he is the drunkest man ever alive.
Yes. Yeah. Number 1.
I mean, I scream for
I see
honey
them!
when I'm drunk.
At one point he's singing, the one where he goes and pees, is he's singing the song, Old Black Joe, which is like a folk song that's about being a slave. And like the joke is that that's how he sees himself, right? Is that like that's the sort of insane mental prison he's constructed where he's like, I'm enslaved to Hollywood, I can't escape.
Shalhoub yelling about him being a louse, and Barton continuing to say like, he's one of our finest writers, one of our finest louses. It's the kind of Coen dialogue
Kind
I
of
love
like a
more
Judy
than
Davis,
anything.
David Lean situation.
A little
He won't drop it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, these guys are like complaining about being enslaved to the system and everything. As I complain about studio filmmaking, I'm also conscious of the fact, like, I should be so fucking lucky.
Of course.
Right? Okay,
We've
these
had
guys
great
are
success.
I guess,
and
right.
what a joy.
Not to turn it into a binary thing, but this is what I was trying to get at with the studio system thing of like, it made perfect sense why it needed to be eradicated in the moment. And now you look back and you're like, fuck, was that better off? I understand everything that was broken about it.
There are a lot
But
of
it's
flaws.
right. This striving for like what would I give up in order to try to eke out a win in this world?
What I am trying to say to you is that what you are really missing is an era where film was unchallenged as a visual medium.
That was a huge part of it.
Yes, a huge part of it. It's not because the studios controlled everything. It's because there was no competition for movies. None.
Yes.
None for 50 years. There's no competition in the visual arts.
Here's the thing
apart from a painting.
Well, I've heard. I've seen some good ones in my
It's
day.
not moving at all.
Yeah, exactly. They don't move unless you kind of Mona Lisa style kind of. She looking at me,
or if you carve out the holes like Scooby Doo style and make
that's
the
a
eyes
Ben Hosley move, of course. Peep.
It is probably Pollyanna-ish of me,
sure. Right?
But
to be like the golden age of Hollywood was a truly golden age.
No, where I'm like specifically a thing I wish that fucking happened. I'm not even saying this for me, right? Is that Netflix would be like, we're going to sign fucking like 40 character actors to yearly contracts and just slot them into our projects into these small roles.
But then you would be stuck in making, no offense to Netflix, maybe Chris wants to work in Netflix one day, Swill!
Right.
No one watches.
David, how dare you?
Pig Swill!
I've never worked for Netflix, but I personally take offense at that.
I did watch Afraid on Netflix, I will say.
I just keep inserting over Swill like, beautiful masterpiece.
Great films. Best experienced on your phone or a smaller device. Pocket size. Your watch?
What you were saying is correct, Sims, but the reality is that people are begging to be cast in Swill.
Well, of course. I mean,
because they're like, fuck, there are no other
I
jobs.
Understand people
so if the system's based around Swill, at least make a system that like benefits the people contributing to the Swill.
Spread the Swill.
I must point out about the golden age of Hollywood is that people who were not white were not allowed to make movies basically at all.
Yeah.
And a movie that I like a lot is Babylon, which is a louder and more obnoxious movie than Barton Fink. You didn't notice that it had a bit of a sort of heightened yelly tone, Babylon, Griff?
I thought it was a silent picture.
High energy. And that explores some of the interesting ways that Hollywood would try to make movies for black audiences back then, but there was so much racism in the way it was presented and the way they treated people and all that. And that is a movie about sort of what you're talking about of like, man, it kind of rocked back then, and we were all kind of in it, like making these fucking movies, but also it was a poison rotting away, our souls and all that.
I guess that right. Him watching Avatar at the end of the movie and being like, fuck, that
it's
terrible
like movies
shit
rock,
did rule.
But industry, some notes, mezzo.
I think that hits me a little bit.
Does Barton Fink watch Avatar at the end of this movie?
No, but what's his name? Calva watches it at the end of Babylon. Barton Fink should watch Avatar. Barton Fink would love Avatar. The Light for the Mind.
I have a question. Because we're talking about work, and you alluded to it earlier in the episode. I'd love to hear about how this portrays writer's block, the writing process. I feel like we haven't heard about that.
Man. I mean, I think everybody's writer's block is different. It probably portrays it pretty realistically as sort of a form of torture. And all the stuff about the life of the mind is like, yeah, that's kind of the deal, but I wouldn't talk about it in that way.
You have also had a very interesting balance in your career of like getting to make personal things that are driven by your desire to tell this specific story and like doing assignment work. Right. And I feel like when I talk to you, as much as you sometimes have frustrations of, I took this assignment job but tried to do the best version of it and I'm unhappy with the final product, you do understand the difference in your relationship to the ownership and the emotional investment versus when it's your thing versus I did a job and then it was out of my hands.
Well, I think it's when it's for another director, like I do feel like I can disengage to the degree that I feel like I owe it to that director as the director's medium. And so what they want kind of goes. That being said, I did have a modest proposal that I wanted to air on this podcast, which is that there's a little like QR code on the on the poster of every movie, and if you click on it, you get a PDF of the original script of the fucking movie that you just saw. Yeah, so that you know what has happened in the interim. Not like anyone would ever read it.
You a couple times have sent that to us.
Yes. I want to send it to the world.
And it is very illuminating.
I want to force their eyes open with toothpicks.
You've just been like, I just want you guys to know this was the last thing that I handed in.
Yeah.
When my job was done, this is how it looked versus what you've seen.
But this is like, so that it's perennial, right?
Right.
This is the same crap that like is that Barton Fink feeling.
It's
like
part
you think
of why the movie resonates so beautifully.
Yeah.
Well, also part of the beautiful pain of the shit is like, fuck, this movie sucks and it's not what I wanted it to be. and I have no ownership of it, and my name is attached to it forever, and now people will hold me somewhat responsible for the sins of this film. On the other hand, what's worse, not getting the credit?
Exactly.
To move us through the plot a little bit,
by all means.
There's another meeting with Goodman. There's another meeting with Shalhoub where he's like, still, I have no idea. Shalhoub has the hilarious idea of like, go watch some dailies from a wrestling picture that's getting made right now. So Barton Fink just watches like endless takes of a guy going like, and like running around a wrestling.
Shalhoub's innate hostility, immediate hostility to Barton Fink, which is like, it's a similar pitch to Michael Lerner, but it's coming from the exact opposite direction, which is, I'm so fucking angry this guy's taken a liking to you. My job is
Now
to
I
like
have to deal
shoo
with
guys
you.
like you out.
Right.
And for some reason, he's gotten fixated on you.
Right. You're allowed to be bulletproof for a minute.
Right.
Yes.
And you seem even worse as a starting point than most of the guys that get handed to me.
I love that they're also at a New York themed restaurant.
Yes.
Yes, they're right. They're at a
It's just
faux
these
diner.
little things where it's like he's like losing his mind.
Yes.
And it's just, I love, like, obviously he's feeling homesick, feeling out of sorts, and now he's at this like really pretend looking version of home.
Right. And he thinks the Mahoney character is going to help give him guidance to sort of understanding, here's how someone else has balanced these two things. And what he realizes is this man he's in hell. He's in hell. He's not functional. He's not producing good work. His life is in shambles. Right. Everyone surrounding him views him with resentment. And perhaps he's not even really writing most of the work that Barton Fink attributes to him.
He looks like shit too.
Yes.
He really, they capture, like, he really is going downhill.
But it speaks to what you're saying of like, right, it's a system that only allows a certain type of person to work on movies at all. Here's Judy Davis, whose life is like cleaning up this guy's fucking vomit and not getting paid properly to write all of his work. You know? Like, she has to basically like puppeteer this guy Weekend at Bernie's style into getting anything published or produced. And then when Barton Fink realizes that and puts it together, he's angry at her. It's such a good choice from Turturro that he's like yelling at her in the hotel room.
He's self-righteous about it too.
Right. Though. That he's calling her up to think that she can help him, but also because he's clearly got a bit of a crush on her, right? Yes. And here's the scene where he needs something from her and wants something from her. And the second he starts to put together that maybe she's the mind behind his last 10 to 15 years of work, his response is, wait, admit it! You wrote all of it!
Right.
Like accusatory, as if she committed a crime.
Right, as if she's stolen something from him or
But
whatever.
then he's also like, why aren't you taking credit? Right. Like, he's angry at her for not having pride in it.
He's not understanding not wanting the credit, I guess.
And also not understanding the system.
Right, and not long after that is when she comes to his hotel.
That is the scene. He yells at her in the hotel.
Right, exactly. Right, it's all part of the
right
same
before
scene.
they sleep
and
together.
then they make love. And the camera does go into the drain. And Chris thought that was a little maybe over the top.
Nice. Down the drain.
And
his life is going down
in a nightmarish moment, wakes up. And this is sort of where you can start to think about the movie entering a more surreal zone.
He calls her and begs her to come over. She says she can't because she has to do work with him. He falls asleep and then he wakes up to her knocking on the door and she's there. Right. I think if you want to believe that the second half of the movie didn't happen, it's in that moment that the transition
I would
happens.
say, just to talk about the whole of Barton Fink, the moment you can really point to is when the walls catch on fire and yet the hotel is not consumed, where you can start to be like, methinks reality is blurring in Barton Fink a bit. You know, like...
but I'd argue it's a build from there.
Yes,
the idea
it is.
that she shows
this
up,
is where it
helps
begins.
him, fucks him, dies,
and then Goodman, he gets Goodman to come in and get rid of the body, and Goodman is just alarmed, but also just does it.
Yeah, and here's
another big puke.
Another off-camera puke.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's another great detail of like weird snapshots of different eras of Hollywood culture. He says to Barton something to the effect of, this is bad. Even if they eventually clear you in the court, you'll be ruined forever.
Yes.
Which is clearly an analog to Fatty Arbuckle.
Right.
In this era, this is like the earliest days of Hollywood scandals where if you were accused of something, even if you won the case and cleared yourself in the court of law, the public wouldn't touch you ever again. You were forever soiled. And now I think, just an interesting counterpoint, we're in this sort
it's
of
an anti-cancel culture movie.
Yes. And basically anytime there is like released documentation of their crimes, you immediately see 8,000 people in the comments go, well, what happened to innocent until proven guilty? I'll wait until I hear all the evidence. Like someone could be found guilty and they're still like, well, but we all know the legal system gets things wrong. Whereas in that day, there was this puritanical nature of like, we don't want to know too much of our stars. The veil cannot be pierced. And especially if any idea is implanted in our head of them doing something untoward, even if we find it's not the case, we're not getting that image out of our head. It's over.
There is this moment, again, when we're talking about dreams, that whereby Barton opens the Bible to Daniel 2.
Yes.
Where he reads a passage about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Like, it's not like, as much as the Coens are like, I don't know, maybe. Like, it's like, obviously there's a lot of allusions to things. The camera zooms in on a passage in the Bible about dreaming.
Yeah.
And then the first verse is his
the joke becomes like he goes to the top of Daniel 2 and it's faded on a tenement building. Like it's his stupid fucking intro that he can't lose.
I think the Coens are as good with sound as anyone in the history of movies.
Without a doubt.
It is like,
I mean, we did just cover, of course, David Lynch, another master of that in a more loud,
But I think part of their magic is they always know how to like really put a focus on Foley work that is just 10% overcranked. It's just a little overstated and a little overly crisp, but every single movement and texture needs to have a specific sound associated with it, which is so powerful in terms of evoking like specific feelings in you in a way that I think a lot of filmmakers undervalue in terms of going for realism or saying like, we don't need to hear every creak of the readjustment or whatever it is. But then they'll also, as you were saying, Chris, make these decisions of like not hearing sound outside the window of the hotel.
Yeah.
Where then when there is silence or an absence of something in a Coen's movie, it's that much more unsettling of like, why is it this quiet?
Yeah, everything has been thought through. Nothing is by default.
Right. Versus being able to hear the wallpaper.
This is also where Goodman's character leaves him a head in a box. Sorry, just a box with nothing. Yeah. Just hold on to that box for me. And then not long after, the two cops appear. Classic kind of Hollywood 30s, like guys in hats and jackets, right? Like who are like, that guy's not who he says he is. He's a serial killer called Madman Munt.
I think we should even say though that John Goodman basically does all of the hard work.
Yes.
Which is removes the body.
You mean he does all of the like manual work, especially like he gets rid of the body.
But also
and Barton Fink is not even really that like thankful about it.
I feel like you don't like this guy. I feel like you got a problem with Barton Fink.
But also Ben,
he's the voice of the people.
He is not.
I think he's trying.
It's bad manners not to thank the person who's disposed of the corpse that you found in your bed.
You should at least say
at least verbal
you.
thanks, if not a tip.
Sure.
Like a crisp 20, and a handshake.
But also, this is a key question of like, is he the one who murdered her?
Yeah.
And is his helping of Barton Fink helping to set him up?
By the end,
that's
I got that. If you're going to take it,
that's the most straightforward kind of like.
He's basically making a trap for him to incriminate him. Part of which is him being that helpful.
The way I sort of take Barton Fink, not again to be like sort of like this is what the movie means, is I'm like, no, I mean like Charlie/Carl is in his imagination. And it's like initially it's this patronizing vision of sort of like, yes, this is the kind of guy I'm writing for. The guy who's like, oh, well, I'm an honest Joe and I earn an honest buck.
Sort of
but like,
folksy
I'm
idioms.
folksy.
I'll curl your hair.
And then as he starts to curdle in madness and get, hate that he's writing this movie,
he's
like,
he
those
villainizes that
sick.
guy.
Exactly. Like they're just monsters.
And not only that, like he's disgusting. He can't stop sweating.
Right, exactly.
Before he literally becomes a serial killer and an embodiment of hell.
And then, first it's the serial killer thing, and then he's a demon. Like he's a demon.
I'm going to tie it to the kind of the film thing, which is like he's imagining an audience or a potential audience, like there's a subject and an audience, right? And like when you go to these marketing screenings, part of the reason I think that obviously they're asking the questions that they're asking of the audience in order to try to maximize the profit that they can make of it. But if you look at the questions, basically they're treating the audience like a bunch of fucking morons, right? Yeah. And they don't say it, but it's like, how can we get money out of these fucking morons?
Yes. Right. It is kind of astonishing. I mean, the joke.
A couple times I've done it. The questions basically are like, did you get this?
Yes.
Did this make sense? Did you track that this was happening in the end?
Do you have
like,
a sense of cause and effect?
Yes.
My experience in TV was almost always having these conversations with executives where they'd say, like, you try to argue for why you thought the integrity of a thing you wanted to convey a certain way, how you want to execute it, what you were trying to say. And then their response is always, almost verbatim, something to the effect of, no. We get it. We love it. I'm just worried about them.
I have been shown movies by studios early, like well before they're screening for press, in these screenings where they're essentially like, can you tell us if the people will get this?
Yes.
Like, and we're not going to take your on fact here, but like we're trying to see, we think people are not going to get this. And they will usually show me a broadly appealing film that is not that hard to get. Like, it's not like they're showing me something really weird.
Yes. The thing I find fascinating about the, no, of course we get it.
Right. And they always have, like, we know what she's going for, or we know what that guy wants, but like, does it make sense?
And my experience with most TV executives while you're inside the belly of the beast, right, is like, either it is very clear that they assume everyone in the audience is an idiot and they're a genius.
The assumption,
right. And they can't be making things at their own level because their level of intellect does not reflect the target audience of the product. Or they clearly don't get it. Like they literally just don't understand. You get into these arguments sometimes where you're like, oh, you actually just didn't get that's the same character.
Yeah. I mean, that's only happened to me once, but there was a movie, I don't know if I should say it. I probably will just say it, which is The Little Stranger, a good movie.
Oh, yes.
Where I had a conversation with someone who worked for I forget if it was a studio or for a publicity
but I remember
house.
You being like,
where they were like, I had to explain the ending to them. Not no Patreon. I was like, no, but the ending was this. And they were like, and I was like, oh, you don't know that's because the ending's kind of the whole movie.
That movie got totally dumped for someone who had just directed a Best Picture nominee. And I remember you saying to me that like you had that conversation with them and were like, I think it's good. And they were like, really? It's good?
They were truly
they
like,
were
no, it's not.
Confused. This is news to me.
After the disposal of the body and all that, there's a scene, I think, first Barton writes the script. He plugs in his ears and he writes a script.
He goes into a Cohen's flow state and just vomits it out.
And then a scene that's kind of pivotal is that he goes to celebrate by dancing. And he gets in this fight with these guys who are about to ship out to the war. Right.
An impossibly square-jawed man.
Yes. A hilarious, like action
great
figure
casting,
boy.
Yeah.
And so much of the movie
it's a scene
at this
where
point,
Barton is clearly like, I hate these fucking, jocks. And you're like, the guy says like, hey, can I dance with her? I'm shipping out tomorrow.
Right.
Like, you're like, oh, he's
the guy isn't big dogging him at all.
Right.
Yeah.
But then he starts.
And he's like, I am a
and
writer, right? It's contempt for the audience.
And then that's where he's like, I serve the common man. And they all start beating him up. And
I'm a creative.
It's
like the worst thing to
The other part of it is like throughout the movie, there have been a bunch of like anti-Semitic slurs thrown at Barton Fink almost always by other Jewish characters, right? It's like the self-loathing Jewish heart of the entertainment industry that is sort of like, we are trash and we need to have contempt for ourselves as we make art that reflects the goyim, what we want to be, right? And yet, when these guys attack him, the slur, as it were, that they are throwing at him is 4A.
Yes.
Right?
No, 4F.
Not
4F. I'm sorry. That they're constantly mocking, like, as you were saying,
not good enough to go to war.
This feeling that all the capable men are about to leave the culture. And we're going to be left like with fucking self-loathing weasels like this guy.
And then the movie ends with its final, long sequence of he returns to the hotel. The cops are there. They've read the script. One of them kind of likes it. One of them doesn't.
Yeah.
And then
Everyone's
Goodman reappears. The walls catch fire. Goodman shoots the cops and then monologues at Barton.
Can you pull up in the dossier? JJ had a good section about how they execute the hallway gag.
I can bring that up. But
that was a dangerous.
It was probably
a bit of
quite
shooting.
A pain in the ass.
They, in 1991, were like, well, obviously we'll have to do this with CGI, which I can't imagine how bad it would have looked at the time.
So
but they were just like, I don't
terrible.
know how we could safely execute this.
Yeah.
And it's why I want you to pull this up because it's just like astounding that they got it. It looks as good as it did and that no one died.
Trying to find this. Is it? It's in the dossier.
Yep.
Right, so while you're looking up, he says, "Look upon me." Right. I'm thinking about like the bits that have been sort of taken magpie fashion by other movies. It felt like Witness Me a bit. Look upon me, and I'll show you the life of the mind.
Yeah.
And then there's this weird moment where John Goodman's character says Heil Hitler right before he shoots the second guy. But I do not think that this is the key that unlocks anything, actually.
No, but it's like that's what's happening in the moment is this monstrousness is creeping, around the edges of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He also brings up the thing of from their first meeting, which is that Barton complained about the noise.
Yeah.
And like he's like saying like that he's still wounded by this. Now he did just shoot a bunch of people. His sympathies might be, but like that he's like, and you just complained about me making noise. Like I'm just, right. Like he starts to speak aloud and castigate Barton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Goodman,
and he says, "You don't listen." That's kind of cool.
And Goodman's a character whose like ears are literally like causing him pain.
There's like goo like leaking out of his ears.
And he's going to doctors. He's trying to get this fucking thing figured out. And yet, like, he's still trying to listen to Barton. I mean, it's real, like, acting is reacting shit, where the shifts between Goodman doing his sort of, like, verbose Coen's runs, and then when he sort of pulls back, and you can just fucking watch Goodman process whatever flowery shit Barton Fink is going on. There's such a universe of reaction within him.
It's a freaking amazing performance. We said that at the beginning. But
why can't I find this?
Okay,
where is it?
Let me look it up.
Yeah, maybe. I think you must have found it somewhere else. I think it's not in the dossier. No offense to JJ.
Maybe it's on America's Most Trusted News Source, Wikipedia.
Possibly.
We skipped over the poolside scene.
The second learner scene where he's in the bathrobe.
And I wanted to shout out John Polito.
We love him.
He's like, has that guy ever had hair?
He was born with a comb over. And
here's the great thing. And so pin not to talk about this in the Miller's Crossing episode, but we'll just do it here because you asked the question.
He's in 6 Coen movies.
Yes.
John Polito. We're going to have a lot of wonderful time with Mr. Polito.
Yes. He did, I believe, a random roles with the AV Club about 10 years ago before his
he's kind of what
untimely passing. A perfect
built for.
Subject for that. And he said that he had known the Coens when he was younger. Maybe they had gone to see him in a play.
Okay.
And he read the Miller's Crossing script and was like, I gotta play this guy. And have you seen Miller's Crossing before?
No.
Okay.
That's sort of his biggest role.
You will have seen it last week, but he's playing more the learner type in that movie, right?
Okay.
And he reads it and is like, I gotta play this fucking part, and had his agent submit him. And the Coens respond like, oh, he's not the right type. That's not what we're looking for. And as Polito tells it, in 5 years, he had gained a lot of weight and lost all of his hair. And he was like, the last time they had saw me was I was a pretty boy. And they thought of me as this like Italian hunk.
Oh, damn, he kind of was.
And he was just like, I have so comfortably transformed into this different type of performer that I'm owning and loving. And I have to sell the Coen brothers that I've become the perfect Coen brothers character actor.
Which he sure had.
But they had him in their mind as like a pretty boy. So he did have that era, but yet the second he started looking like John Polito, that's when he really started working and never stopped.
It is from Wikipedia, Griffin, but I'm sure this is true. They built an alternate hallway in a airplane hangar, putting gas jets behind the walls, obviously.
And sort of incrementally with each passing step following him.
Correct. As Goodman's walking through the hall, running through, someone on a catwalk is opening all the jets.
I mean, just like precision timing shit
every
that could
take
go so
they had
wrong.
to rebuild everything. They had a second hallway ready for pickups.
Yeah,
that is expensive. I was thinking about like the production.
But my guess is like largely this production was not that expensive beyond like costuming. Like they're doing a lot of location stuff. The hotel is real.
They chose their targets. I'm sure Dennis.
The room is not out.
I think he just made the argument like it's worth spending the money on this. This is where to put the money,
and it sure is because
this had
burned into my memory.
If this had fairly compelling CGI
sequence.
Flames, the movie would fall apart in the sequence.
It would be a bit of a bummer.
Yes.
And so, or whatever post production kind of like optic. I don't know what you would do.
And it's not just that the imagery is so powerful, but it's also like watching Goodman crank his performance all the way up to the maximum volume while surrounded by real fire.
Yeah.
It feels so real because you're like, he's actually having to do this surrounded by this level
I'm
of
sure
heat.
it would have been it would have been, there would have been a long fucking safety meeting beforehand. Nobody would be quite sure if things were going to blow up or not. Is the set going to catch on fire? You'd be pretty amped.
But like miracle of movies that they got it.
After Goodman's incredible monologue, he does something that I think is really cool, which is he pulls the bed spring apart, the bed frame apart, and the camera zooms in on his face. in what's become sort of a meme almost, right? Like
sweaty
is
red
him
face
training. Yes, that particular image of him.
Yeah, you're right.
And then he does say, right, he visited the family
Mm-hmm.
in New York, and the package isn't his, and he goes like this, and that's the end of him. Walks into the flames.
What's his last line? Isn't it Hail Hitler, or it's right before?
No, he says Hail Hitler before he shoots the guy.
Oh, you're right.
His last thing is the package I gave you lied. It isn't mine, and then he just goes like this.
Yeah.
Rocks. He should have won an Oscar. I think he's too scary. That's my assumption. Is that the Oscars were like, I don't know what to make of this. It's too weird.
Yeah, I do. I do just think the movie was a little too heady for them at the time.
I mean, it is a weird movie.
It just feels like this guy was like, we talked about how quickly like Roseanne season 1 springboards to always springboards to the Flintstones. Like America just immediately was like, we're buying anything with this guy. He was clearly so beloved within the industry. It still is, but was right out of the gate. Yeah. It just feels like an obvious, like, kind of.
But he only makes one movie next year, which is The Babe.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like by a couple years later, and obviously he's making Roseanne, his sort of like he's in a lot of stuff career start, right? Where it's like Goodman's a pretty reliable, like 2, 3, 4 movies a year.
This is the era where they were like, I guess he has to be a leading man, right? I guess we have to construct vehicles around him. What's the right source material? What's the right projects? And then he, I think, like transitions to an area of flexibility of like, I'll just do anything. I'm happy to play the lead. I'm happy to be in one scene. I'm happy to be the second guy.
And the Coens always use
I'll do comedy and indie and drama and action. And he's fucking, not only is he, the classic Sims, when's he bad?
When is he bad?
I was watching it last night and I was like, has this guy ever had a moment that is less than great? Genuinely.
I saw him on Broadway in The Front Page, which was this sort of all-star cast thing where it was like fucking Nathan Lane and John Slattery and Goodman, where you're like, Jesus, any of these guys could headline a Broadway play, right? Like, what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. And it was that weird sort of phase in his life where he suddenly lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
And his energy changed a lot. He got sober.
Kind of rueful.
And it's not like he was bad in it, but you were I remember being let down by like he was a little muted, and it was sort of like, that's weird. In a play that's mostly people like screaming at the top of their heads. Right. Or top of their lungs, sorry. I have certainly never thought he was bad.
I've not seen every single thing he's done, but I have not, in my mind, consciously witnessed a false moment from him.
What about Blues Brothers 2000?
I think he's good in it. I rewatched it recently.
I believe you.
You guys see everything.
Well, I want to say
twice
this.
in theaters.
I've not seen Blues Brothers 2000.
And I watched it like 6 months ago. I was like, it's time to reassess.
Well, to an extent, David, it's your job, right? So you always seem to see everything.
Right now, Griffin, it is my job.
Right, I'm just sick.
Yeah, you're doing great.
But it's hard. It is hard to keep up with movies with children, and I sympathize, David.
That's true, but you just have to. In my opinion, when you're a parent, you do have space for kind of like one extracurricular thing. Basically, it's kind of what it is that you pick, right? I don't know. Mm-hmm. The final 2 scenes, coda scenes, are so good. Michael Lerner in his like Mussolini costume, where he's like had a general costume rigged up for him, and that's when he's turned on Fink, where he's like, "This is too arty farty."
Good side gag when he turns around because you think he's in a tan suit, and then suddenly he's covered in metals.
So funny, And in a daze after being chewed out for his whatever terrible script, he goes to the beach. He sees the lady from the painting. He's got the box, and she goes like this, and that's it. We're done.
He says, "You're very beautiful. Are you in the pictures?" And she says, "Don't be silly." And I had a false memory that what she says is, "Don't be silly. Nothing good comes of the pictures."
That would be way too obvious.
Yeah. Right? It's like, but I wrote. That's what I took away. Actually, it was like
it is the takeaway.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
No, I think this movie is about how writing is fun and easy, and pictures are easy breezy, and it's good. Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no business like show business.
There's no business like show business. They talk about it. A lot of the quotes that JJ pulled up in the dossier is they're just like, a lot of the stuff just comes out of us organically. Like, it does feel like so much of their incubation process is they start to hone in on a couple things they find interesting. And it's like, that's an interesting historical moment. This is an interesting place. What about a character like this?
And
what if we wrote for this guy? And then they get to a point where they have like 8 elements they find compelling. And then they're just like, let's just see where it goes. And there's an episode of course, my favorite web series, the Russo Brothers Pizza Film School, in which they have Josh Brolin on. The Russo Brothers have a show where they interview people who worked on movies and break down storytelling and screenplays. And they are guys who think about storytelling in a pretty formulaic way. They've
got a schematic
of how much they feel like they have figured out the scheme of how to make stories.
But the first movie they ever made, Welcome to Collinwood, is a very, very straightforward Coen Brothers-y kind of
Big
movie.
Deal on Madonna Street remake. It's very Coen-y, right? And they're talking to, unsurprisingly, the Coen Brothers did not want to go on Pizza Film School, but Josh Brolin did, and they did a No Country episode with them. And they were trying to apply their screenplay
the
logic math, right? And being like, look, it doesn't seem like it, but if you actually break apart the script and you stopwatch it, there is this very deliberate construction. And Josh Brolin was just like, look, I've worked with them a couple times. I've talked to them a lot. They do not think that way. They just they start on page 1 and they get to the end and they write what's interesting to them. And they are not thinking about what it would take to keep the audience invested or how you're swinging their alliances or any of these sorts of things. I think so much of their magic is just they know how to make every single scene interesting. Even with these movies that are oddly shaped,
does not feel
or
like
have
a fatty
themes that are
movie.
hard to identify, they're able to just always isolate and circle what is the inherent drama and comedy of this scene in a way that is really playable, that is surrounded by them working with the best craftspeople in the world, where you're just on board leading in, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're organically and multifariously excellent.
Film was at 91 Cannes. Big competition there, I would say, is Kieślowski's Double Life of Veronique. Also, Lars von Trier's Europa. Is Homicide, the Mammoth movie, which is really good. Jungle Fever. Bill Duke's A Rage in Harlem. There's good movies. There's not movies.
Boys in the Hood played out of competition.
Sure, I mean, obviously there's other stuff like that, but it was in certain regard.
Thelma and Louise was the closing film.
Right.
It was a good year.
But it's not a lineup where you're like, oh, damn. It's a lineup where you look at it, you're like, well, Barton Fink is the best movie of these.
No, we should acknowledge that Polanski was the head of the jury.
He was?
And this is a very Polanski-inspired film, and I think it's part of why there was this backlash.
But it was a unanimous jury victory.
Yes, it was.
And
but
Lars
giving
von
it the
Trier,
3 categories.
Lars von Trier said thanks very much to the midget and to the rest of the jury, insulting Polanski.
That's weird. That guy never says off-the-cuff stuff at the Cannes Film Festival.
Film got made $6 million in America, released by Fox, which means, of course, Barton Fink will be in Avengers Doomsday. He's joining the cast.
He's going to be one of the Spider-Man villains.
You hear the strains of Carter Burwell's score as the camera pans over to the chair.
It got very good reviews and 3 Oscar nominations, but certainly was more polarizing, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is the rude era of Turturro kind of being snubbed for this, and then Quiz Show really is what should have been his makeup nomination. And in both cases of these movies, there's kind of the surprise, they nominated this other guy instead. They nominated Michael Lerner instead of John Goodman. They nominated Paul Scofield instead of Turturro.
Rosenbaum and Hoberman, two of the great critics of their era, both hated it.
Yeah.
And Hoberman is they both have this kind of what is this Cohen's self-hating Jew shit, they're both picking at that very early on, which to me, again, I'm get over it. And to be clear, I deeply respect those men, and they inspired me to the work that I do. But I think they're looking at it the wrong way.
The thing that always happens with sort of prodigiously talented filmmakers, which is we get it, you know how to make a movie. The craft is impeccable.
Right.
But is that all this is? Some whiz-bang contraption? Some construction to impress us with your knowledge of the medium? And it still happens to this day. It always happens when people come out of the gate hot and they have a couple successes in a row, and there starts to be a dialogue of are these people starting to make the case for entering the pantheon? There is always a percentage of the critical community, even more so now that it's just open to the fucking internet and social media,
their arms,
who just go I need to take this guy down. We cannot put this new person on the same tier as established masters.
A lot this year.
And yet, to your point, when you're I feel like they are the greatest living filmmakers, not you, because you have always been so open with us, but like increasingly over the last 4 or 5 years, we will hear about filmmakers we admire who listen to the podcast, and we're like, holy shit, that person listens. That is crazy. And then we get in touch with them, and the way we get in touch with you, part of it's the show's gotten bigger. They're more worried about there being more ears on it. But people will say, like, I kind of feel uncomfortable coming on and talking about someone else's work.
Sure.
I don't want to shit on stuff. And the flip side is I don't want to, like, call dibs on a big movie because I'm expecting your guests want to hear an Alex Ross Perry style 20-page horror syllabus. Sure. And if I don't know the whole movie backwards and forwards, should I come on?
Right.
It has been interesting, and who knows, this is early in the series and things can change. But we've like circled back to filmmakers who have been weary for the last couple of years. And a lot of them are like, oh, I'll do the Coens.
They want to jump in.
There is
because they're unimpeachably great.
Right. No
films,
one's
I think,
really.
Yeah, you can't say like I'm looking down on this movie.
They are endlessly talkable movies, open to like endless interpretations. And it also feels like even though they are still alive and still working, whether separately or together, they are on a different tier. It feels like they're basically accepted as like living masters now.
They're in the pantheon, for sure.
Not contemporaries in a way.
Before we play the box office game, we must acknowledge that, jokingly or not, the Coens did to Josh Horowitz bring up the idea of Old Fink.
Yes.
A sort of semi-jokey sequel. Where they were kind of like, it's the 60s. He's
teaching at a liberal arts college,
teaching at Berkeley, and he ratted on everyone to HUAC.
It's his post HUAC shame movie.
And he Totoro has said, like, I'm down. We have talked about it, at least jokingly.
About 15 years ago, both parties said we can't make it until he's a little older.
Right. Now, Totoro is having, not that Totoro is never not having a moment, but he is having a bit of a moment from Severance. The Coens, it's time to get back together. There's multiple things where they've been like, let's make a sequel, but they're kidding.
But this is the only one I'd actually want to see. Like, Totoro, of course, made his own weird Big Lebowski sidequel.
Yes.
That no one was asking for.
No. Well, but that also was one of those projects that they would kind of joke about.
Right.
And the answer was, we weren't really asking for this.
Right. Whereas Old Fink feels like a real movie. That doesn't feel like a dumb pitch. I think it's why everyone goes like, are they just fucking with us because they have a tendency to fuck with the public in that way?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's out there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, Totoro's hot right now. Irv, we're all obsessed with Irv.
Yeah.
I mean, they are very perverse, right? That's another thing I love about them.
Yeah.
It's sort of
Joel and Ethan Coen. They got sex stuff going on. I remember Minnesota brains of theirs.
I remember before I really knew their work that well, like reading a forwards to maybe it was that screenplay, but written by their editor, and I didn't know that they worked together under an assumed name,
Roderick Jaynes.
Yeah, Roderick Jaynes, and Roderick Jaynes was kind of dumping on, like, damning with faint praise, and being a bit anti-Semitic about
right. They created this fake character. One of their movies, there's a commentary track where they hired an actor to play Roderick Jaynes. I think.
And I think
I think it was the
Blood Simple,
the director's cut of Blood Simple, and Jaynes talks about how it's better because there's less boring stuff in it.
Right. That's the rare director's cut that is shorter because they went back to their first film and were like, we were fucking idiots. We know how to make this better now.
They famously, who knows if it's true or not, when they got nominated as Roderick Jaynes for Fargo, we might bring this up in the Fargo episode, they were like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Like, Roderick Jaynes has been nominated for an Oscar, and they wanted to dress up Albert Finney in like a weird costume and have him be Roderick Jaynes, but then they didn't go through with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the box office.
Do you remember when Adaptation was nominated and they were presenting the nominees and they actually showed 2 Charlie Kaufmans on the screen? They created a graphic.
God bless.
For
Oh, wait, that was my year. Yeah.
Yeah,
you were nominated. Who'd you guys lose to?
The piano.
The pianist.
The pianist. Sorry, the pianist, not the piano.
Right.
Yes, the pianist.
Somewhat of a surprising win.
Funny to imagine, though, in the same category, there is like Chris and Paul Weitz showing 2 real brothers and then Charlie and Donald Kaufman showing a fake brother.
It's funny because, the people thought The Hours or Chicago would
definitely thought The Hours. I tell you who thought The Hours was going to win was David Hare.
Yeah.
Well,
because he won everything up until that point.
He had a Judy Davis moment.
Right. And Adaptation and About a Boy, the 2 best nominees in that category, were probably kind of a pleasure to be nominated or whatever.
Absolutely.
And then The Pianist won, and that was the first sign of like, oh, this is oh shit, and then it won 2 other big Oscars.
Right.
There was a wild energy to that night where for like 3 minutes you were like, the pianist is winning Best Picture. And it was shocking almost.
And then
that
they gave it to Chicago,
to the presumed front runner.
and the guy gets up there and he's like, hey, Chicago, and you're like, I mean, Chicago's a B+.
Remember
I
us?
guess let's
It's
go
like a
home.
bunch of people gyrating in lingerie.
How dare you? Chicago is pretty good.
I think adaptation should have won that year.
Well, it wasn't nominated, so that was the biggest.
for
It wasn't
screenplay, you're
nominated?
saying.
Oh, for screenplay.
For screenplay, yeah,
it would
yeah.
be an amazing, obviously, but for best adapted screenplay, adaptation would have been pretty cool. They've given
Totally.
it it's
And it's
about adaptation.
freaking great.
Yeah.
He wins 2 years later for Eternal Sunshine, another good movie.
Yeah, also very good.
No, that's also the year that Almodovar wins original screenplay,
Right.
which was also surprising
Because
and also
they
rocked.
didn't give him. Spain didn't nominate
Spain
his
had
movie?
not submitted him for
Right.
foreign film
Right.
because Spain gets in weird fights with him.
Right.
But then he got the surprise writing and directing noms.
I was gonna
An
say,
incredible
right.
movie,
Yeah.
one of his best movies. But then him winning was still shocking.
Yes.
He did beat out Todd Haynes, which was a little sad because that was probably Haynes's shot.
Yeah. Who are the other 3?
Gangs of New York, which was probably
Yeah.
not going to win. Cox, Zaley, and Lonergan.
Most adaptation.
Yeah. Ichimama Tambien, which was like a great nom, right?
I guess that was Gangs was a
No,
original.
this is original. This is what I'm saying. Right?
Wild.
Gangs was classified as original because the book it's based on is a fact book.
And I guess they pulled so much
it has
from
nothing
different
real.
areas.
They made a lot of
And
shit.
then,
I've read that book.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Nia Vardalos,
Of
which I think
course.
there was some thought of like, will that get a win to acknowledge the triumph of this movie? But then I think everyone was like, let's not be crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Not that big.
This film came out August 23rd, 1991. Seasonally appropriate
I
in
was gonna
terms of
say.
you want it to be muggy,
Yes.
but not really when you want to release this movie. I don't
No.
know when you release this movie, but it's these days would probably be more of a fall award
I guess they were just
contender.
fucking hot off the cans heat. They were
Maybe.
like, let's strike while the iron's muggy.
Canned
but
heat.
It's opening
Cans.
limited release, obviously, so it's not in our top 10. Number 1 at the box office. I'm sure Ben's seen it. I'm sure
August
Griffin's seen
1991.
it. Perhaps Chris has seen it. It's a satirical film.
But you jumped to Ben first. You think this is in the Hosley
I-
canon.
Maybe.
Satirical. 1991.
A spoof of famous Hollywood movies of
Is
the time.
It Hot Shots Part 2?
It's Hot Shots.
Oh, the first one.
I've never seen the first one.
That doesn't surprise me
Yeah.
either. That much like Under Siege and whatever, where like you got the sequel a lot because it was on TV more.
I definitely watched Part 2 many, many times, and then I was like, if this is Part 2, I can't imagine how good the first one is. And I
That's
ranked
going
the
to be
first
one
Hot
half as
Shots.
good.
I had not seen Top Gun,
Sure.
and Hot Shots Part
Right.
2
Hot
is
Shots Part
pulling
2
in
is
like
just
80
action
things.
movies,
It's
right.
making fun of everything.
Hot Shots 1 is just a Top Gun.
And I was like, I don't get
Mm.
any of this.
Oh, sure.
Hot Shots. It's
I don't think I've seen it.
pretty funny.
I watched the first one recently. It's funny, but 2
Yeah.
is better.
Yeah. Well, 2 is a little more like let's just be ridiculous. I feel like
It's a garbage plate,
Right.
in a good way.
Number 2 at the box office. So, Chris, you don't care about Hot Shots?
I haven't seen it. I
Great.
didn't see it.
Number 2 is a rom-com. Movie star, I guess. Rom-com. It's not a bad movie. It's all right.
It's a movie star.
It's kind of a
rom-com. It's not bad
classic
movie.
formula.
It's 1991. It's a classic formula.
You know, it's got a bit of a TV vibe to
It's
it.
not. It could happen to you.
No, but which is kind of an interesting movie.
Yeah, it is
Uh,
kind of an interesting movie.
No, it's what if a big shot kind of got taken down a peg? Big city, small town movie.
Oh, it's not Doc Hollywood. is
It's Michael J. Fox and Doc Hollywood.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doc Hollywood? A fun movie. It's just the classic, like, what if a big shot's car broke down in a small town?
Right.
That's
And
Preston
like you can
Sturgis,
do it
right?
with lawyer,
That's
you can
Cars.
do it with
Yeah.
anything.
Well, this
but
is the
with this
thing.
time, it's Big Shot Doctor.
10 years later,
And he's got to become like the community doctor to like earn his way out of
10 years later, they
the small
cracked the
town or
code and they
something.
said, "Wait a
Can't
second,
walk?
I don't know. It doesn't. It makes sense. Don't worry. It's like Cars
It's
is
Cars.
Doc Hollywood.
you're fucking stepping on."
Oh, I'm sorry.
The joke I was going to tee up. I was going to say that 15 years later, they finally cracked the formula and said, "Get rid of the guy. Just make it car breaks down and car is stuck in a
Right.
car."
It's like
town."
he crashes into a fence and they're like, you have to be a doctor for 30 hours of community service
To
to
make
like,
back the
pay
cost of
off
defense.
the
fence.
first Cars
And
is
then you know
so
what?
one-to-one Doc
It
Hollywood.
is,
It's
right.
insane.
You know what, Ben? He kind of learns that like life at a slower pace with sort of like, more sort of down to earth folk has got some appeal.
Because you know who plays.
Like
The
before he was a
mater-
guy in Hollywood who had
Yeah.
sunglasses and he might kind of like look down the sunglasses, perhaps at a lady.
And he would be in a rush.
He's in a rush. He's got a cell phone.
But this is why cars are so smart, because what's faster than a race car? The ultimate rush. Woody Harrelson basically plays the mater in that movie.
Yes, Woody Harrelson is the folksy
Who's the love interest?
It's Julie Warner.
Julie Warner, who
is playing sort of the Sally Carrera.
Right, did not have a gigantic career.
Yeah, who's the Doc Hudson in that picture?
David Ogden Stiers.
Oh, of course.
Who's fun. It's a fun movie. It's
and
a classic
who's the Sarge?
TV
Who would you say is the Sarge in the film one?
Moving on to the third film,
Who's
which is
the
the film we
Raoul?
covered. A very popular action film.
Uh-huh.
Been out for 2 months. It's
We've
a
covered
sequel. We certainly
Is
have.
it Terminator 2 Judgment
That's
Day?
correct.
Yeah.
Good movie.
The highest grossing film of its year?
That is a good movie.
Number 4 at the box office is a movie I have vaguely heard of.
Okay.
It stars an Oscar winner. It's a drama.
Mm.
I think it's based loosely on like a real guy's
Recent
memoir.
winner?
He would have won in the 80s. Yeah, probably the last 5 or 6 years. But I think his career is starting to curdle.
Okay.
Famously, a bit of a tough cookie, this actor.
This actor's a bit of a tough cookie.
I feel like I know.
What is it?
I know
if
who
you
that
guess this movie,
No,
I'll
I
give
can't
you
guess the movie,
$5.
but is it George C. Scott?
No. George C. Scott.
He's already.
No, he's with us.
Gone by then.
No. George C. Scott's
Yeah.
still with us, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, George C. Scott, his final film is Angus, which is later.
He died in 1999.
Yeah.
No, this is an actor. He was a huge asshole. I mean, but he was a big
But
movie
it's not
star. He's a good
Dreyfus.
actor. Not Dreyfus, but you're close. Who's the other one?
It's not Dreyfus, it's not
Who's the
Hackman,
other
it's not
Oscar winner
Pacino.
from that era who is a huge asshole?
It's not John Voight.
No.
Is it William Hurt?
Yes. A man
The Big
robbed
Hurt.
of the opportunity to play the Red Hulk by mortality. Poor Mr. Hurt. And that's right. I'm going to keep bringing up the Red Hulk. You can't stop me. The film is
Can you tell
called,
the listeners what I got you for your birthday?
You got me it's sort of like a Pez dispenser, but for lollipops in the shape of the Red Hulk.
It's like a lollipop protector. It's a plastic
Yeah.
Red Hulk.
I guess so.
with
It's
a handle,
like
so you
you can
push
do
a
a little
button.
lollipop and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
store it away.
I'm just mindful. You love sucking on a lolly, but your least favorite part is that once you start, you can't stop. There's no pause points.
So true.
And I said, what if the skull of the Hulk
We've been recording for so long.
could protect
the
your
film
lolly?
is called The Doctor.
Birthday present. You still haven't said thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
definitely said thank you.
It came
when
from
you
the
gave it to
heart.
me. The
You
film
were
is
pretty
called
drunk
The
when I gave it to you. Oh, no, I gave it to you during the
weren't.
day.
No, I wasn't drunk. And I wasn't even that drunk on my birthday.
How long are we running,
It was
Ben?
a
Are we heading for record territory?
Gentlemen's
Fucking-
310.
It's a long time.
Yeah, we're getting
The film
there.
is called The Doctor. Has anyone heard of this film?
No,
He plays like a
William Hurt?
doctor.
I've never
What's it
heard of
about?
that.
What's it about?
What if there
Fucking
was?
doctor. It's got William Hurt, Christine Lottie,
Mm.
Patinkin's there,
Okay.
Perk Inns, Elizabeth, that is.
Oh,
Adam Arkin.
yep.
I don't know. Whatever. It's a movie. It's one of those things where it's like the movie got fine reviews and made $40 million. And you're like, $40 million
Yeah.
for a movie I've never heard of that's clearly stupid.
In 1991. That's
I've been
amazing.
going through this thing where like fucking watched all the vacation movies because of doing European Vacation with heckling, right? I hadn't watched the Goldstein Daily when we had recorded that episode, watched it after the fact.
What'd you think?
I thought it was okay. It's got moments.
I really think the first 20 minutes you're like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, this
Yeah.
is funny.
There's
and then it
stuff.
just kind of loses.
There's stuff. It's wonky. And it's just emblematic of a crisis point for studio live action films. And I think of that movie as being seen as a big disappointment and like a big failure.
And then you look up
And
what
then
it
you
made.
look at it and you're like, it made a fucking $150 million worldwide.
Not bad.
People were like pulling their hair out of the fact it only ended up at like 67 domestic or whatever.
Number 5 at the box
It used
office
to be a proper country.
is a neo-noir thriller. It is a director who we could cover, but he's made a lot of movies at this point.
Friedkin?
No, Friedkin's dead, so he can't make any more movies. This guy's alive. and well.
Well, it's not Soderbergh.
No, not
Adrian
that
Lyne.
unwieldy a career. Not Adrian Lyne. The fact that it's a neo-noir is a bit of a trick.
That's not his main
No,
turf.
it's his
Okay.
second film.
Huh.
And I do feel like it's him being like, hey, I got more in me than what you think I do. But he did make a lot of more epic costumey stuff.
Interesting. But
He's also an actor, and he's also the
Ron
star
Howard.
of this film, not Ron Howard.
made too many films at this point. He's also the star of this
He
movie.
sure is.
And he's made a lot of them. It's not a Clint Eastwood, obviously.
No.
He's an
Mel
actor,
Gibson.
director who's
No?
made a
Damn.
lot of movies. That's interesting. Because a
He's made
lot of these guys
movies.
were throwing out direct infrequently.
Mhm.
He, in the 2020s, has already made 4 movies, and he's got another one coming.
And does he still star in most of them, or does he mostly
He
step
is
back?
pulling back on starring in all of them. But
Okay.
he did recently make a franchise for himself
He did
that
recently.
he is the star of, and he made 3 movies.
He recently made
His mind, Ben.
and he directed all of
Oh,
those.
he
as-
sure did.
Who is this guy?
You know him. You love him. He recently won an Academy Award.
He recently won an Academy Award.
Hollywood's highest honor.
Lead or support it?
Screenplay.
It's Kenneth Branagh?
Kenneth Branagh.
And it's dead again?
The film is Dead Again with Emma Thompson.
This is a perfect example.
Really good movie. Like a really
I've never
fun,
seen it.
Yeah, like super
fun early 90s thriller.
Yeah.
That is a perfect example of everything you just described. You're like, this is impossible.
Right.
No one possibly fulfills all
the
the
craziest thing is that Branagh's like, I'm going to direct my ass off at and it's like, and by the way, I'm sneaking in those Poirot movies, and guess who the star is? You're looking at him.
Right. You're
By
like,
the way, very nice man. Incredible amount of energy as well. He's always
clearly
working on 5 things.
fucking 5 movies
Yeah,
a
have you
day.
seen Tenet? Him doing those monologues? He's great.
Do you know he was directing 2 Poirots while filming Tenet?
Doing Tenet?
Like mid-take.
When he's doing phone calls, right? He's like
he's got like a little
He's
monitor
having
down
meetings in the middle of
out
scenes and
frame
they just
in his
cut around
lap.
it.
Yeah.
Venice needs to be more haunted. I'll talk to you in 10 minutes. Dead Again, fun movie. Other movies in the top 10. We've got the Jean-Claude Van Damme twin picture Double Impact, which I've never seen.
Me neither.
Bet you it's good. We've got the Mickey Rourke sort of tail end of his movie star career, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
He always cites that as the movie that single-handedly killed his career, to which I would say, I think there were a couple steps in that process.
Yeah, there's a behavior as well that you might want to point to.
Right. I made one bad movie and suddenly people stopped picking up the phone. And maybe you were like, also the punches you were throwing.
There is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, another big hit of that year. There's a comedy I've never heard of called Pure Luck, starring Martin Short and Danny Glover.
Yes.
Wow.
It's like a cop comedy?
A French director.
Yes,
who
Nadia
basically
Tass.
had a bit of a Barton Fink experience and has spent the last 25 years, 30 years being like, this is why Hollywood is bad, relating everything back to her experience.
I make my film Pure Luck, no one understands.
Yes. I believe it's a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, looks like it.
Or Glover's a cop.
Glover's a cop, for sure.
And Martin Short's like a suspect or a witness or whatever.
He's a psychologist.
But the whole thing is that he's got like
else's.
cosmically bad luck, that like cartoonishly bad things keep happening.
Uh-oh. Number 10 at the box office is a film called Defenseless. What is that?
No idea.
1991 film called Defenseless, directed by Martin Campbell, starring Barbara Hershey and Sam Shepard. Legal thriller.
Okay.
I don't know. Got bad reviews.
Because you need a defense. You need a legal defense.
If you are defenseless.
But if you're in love and if you're defenseless against someone's charms.
Stakes are high.
Yeah, very good.
All done. Gotta pee again because we've recorded for so long.
I need to pee as well, and I've just been holding it in, and I'm not looking for applause. I just want people to know that. Chris, anything else?
Let me see. Do I have anything to add? No, I'm just really glad to be back on the main feed.
I just feel like you go through these cycles. And by the way, always happy to receive these texts and give you pep talks, which are often just like, Chris, you're a good guy and you do good work. This industry is frustrating. I don't think you should give up. But you will go through these cycles, and they will both be in terms of like the nature of the industry and your experiences working on things, but also you have one of the strongest moral backbones of anyone I know. I truly mean that. And you often will just text and be like, I am just so disgusted by like this behavior I'm seeing or this attitude or this thing, and I just don't know if I want to be around these people.
I want to be in Hollywood, but not of it if possible. But let me see what actually, you know, when I think I've been in kind of a meta cycle of like 15 years ish, kind of in the wilderness in a way of like trying to react to that, kind of devastating experience of the Golden Compass, and kind of always sort of hyper correcting in some other weird way. And I think the one movie that I really think like that is a good movie is A Better Life.
Yeah.
The movie that Demi Bashir starred in, which is unfortunately still relevant. And I'm like, okay, that was a good one. That was a good one.
But I mean, I love Operation Finale.
Thank you very much.
It is part of what is so unique and fascinating about your exact position is you like have spent the last 15 years in a very successful wilderness.
Funk.
Right. Like, but it speaks to the weird reality of this industry of like you constantly are like looking in the mirror and going like, what am I doing? And yet from the outside, because I know you're a real person who just like the mere kind of credits or like box office numbers does not make you feel good.
No.
It's right. You're striving for things and you have things you want to say and whatever, but it's like that this is an industry that can make you feel like a failure when you're a success.
It is kind of funny.
And that forces failures to pretend they're successes, you know?
Right. No, it is kind of funny that way. And yeah, it's very strange. I think what I've come to is that in order to actually do the thing that I want to do, whatever that may be, it's probably going to be independent and very small scale. And actually, you know, I had a call with Alex Ross Perry the other day. He was very kind about this in terms of sort of who I only know via blank check. So there's this kind of blank check extended.
I remember
you guys met when we did the
Big Nice
commentary.
Yeah,
were leaving from doing the Rogue One commentary,
and I didn't get to play the Keep role playing game, which was a bummer.
Yeah, someday.
Yeah, someday we'll get it back together.
He's someone I'm also having these fucking text conversations with all the time, where we're just like, we feel like we missed the industry. Like it's like the fucking Sopranos thing of like, you ever feel like you got in too late?
Yeah.
Like the best of it was over, right? And as much
you want
as
to go back to the studio system.
Clearly.
Apparently.
Yeah. I just want the trains running on time.
I'd like to go to the 70s, maybe.
That's where I really want to be.
I
think that was
a more exciting time.
right balance between the two extreme poles of what the industry has been.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of the best of both worlds. But it is, I mean, I talk about this with like all of my friends of sort of my generation, where it's just like, we feel like we got in just in time to watch it all get gutted. Like the dream jobs we thought we were aspiring to, not even could we not get them, but they stopped existing.
Well, but you know, I take a lot of energy from you guys and from this podcast. I got to say that like,
nice.
All right, that's enough. We don't need any praise.
You don't want to
Our
hear
heads
this.
need deflating.
No, but it's a decade of dreams, and like it's time for the members of your extended family to come back and and attest to.
Well, you're welcome back
anytime. Truly,
thank you very much,
and hopefully you come back sooner.
I would like to very much.
Did you notice, by the way?
That
he saw
the application to retire bit is up on the wall.
It's on the wall,
very
framed.
touched. Although I do feel like
prominence.
still feel really guilty about that. But we had to. I think I couldn't come up with any more cool shit for Night Eggs. I was dancing as fast as I could.
Rumblings
Nothing's
that
ever
Night Eggs
over.
might be going back redevelopment. Yeah,
we'll see. You know, but I think it was a good time to put it down, and we could always pick it back up when the time comes.
Yeah, with the proper formalities.
Chris, I believe by the time this episode comes out, the full season of Murderbot will be out there. August 3rd. Will it have
August 3rd. It will have. It will have already been seen. But binge away, please. I really like it. I think it's good.
You very kindly invited Ben and I to the premiere.
And
David,
but I knew that he was
too
going
many
to be
children. You know what's a crazy Decade of Dreams thing? When we met you, you had 3 kids and David had 0. Now he's caught
Catching up.
Yeah.
Dead time.
Well, I know David is really against the Great Replacement. You know, and
I had a dinner with you and your wonderful wife and Griffin. Like the day before I was getting sleep training my first child.
Yeah.
And it's a dinner that really lives in my memory because it was also no, I'm serious, because it was also an early like COVID dinner. Like it's like I hadn't had dinner with people much.
Yeah,
like
we
it
were
was like we were
outside.
just starting to.
That was maybe my first dinner after having my fucking gallbladder surgery.
Yes,
that's right.
You were
locked down
soon
for
for, like
your,
you were still
gallbladder
dealing
was
with
in
that.
the news.
It was like the first night out I remember where it's like I can eat a variety of foods again.
Sure.
And the other big thing I remember that night was I was waiting to get a message back from my doctor about whether or not I was allowed to drink alcohol yet.
And did the word come in?
It didn't,
positive?
and I was like fucking white knuckling, and I was like, I can't, like fucking 4 more days before my system can process it.
Oh man.
Look at all the Decade Dreams memories. Look at the time. But people should watch Murderbot. Ben and I got to see the first 2 episodes. It's very. I feel like it exists on a bit of Verhoeven.
There's a bit of that
continuum,
definitely.
but with maybe a little bit of that Weitz brothers feeling, a little bit more of that heart.
It does have some heart.
Yes.
Skarsgård is very good in it.
He's quite excellent in it. And I will say this: he's a pretty good looking guy.
He's fairly good looking.
It was pretty absurd to watch him on a big screen and then see him in person and be like, both make me feel like a piece of shit.
He is a specimen.
Yeah.
All right, we must be done.
All right.
Yeah. This is in the top 10 longest episodes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. I don't like that. That's a not
I'm
even
so happy.
Good.
But I actually think that the fans appreciate it.
No, I mean, I
just want more
love
of
this
it. If
movie,
something's
and I
good,
wanted
more.
a long
And that's what we do
episode,
it for. We do it for the common
have to be done.
people.
Done.
It's podcasting
For
of the
you,
people.
Don, the working stiff out there.
Chris, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Look
for
forward to having you
Chris,
on again
come
much
back,
sooner.
everybody.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Tune in next week for Fargo. Or no, I'm sorry, the Hudsucker Proxy. My favorite. With guest 2BD. Yeah. And as always, we're just looking for a little bit of that blank check feeling.
Blank Check with Griffin and David is hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Our executive producer is me, Ben Hostley. Our creative producer is Marie Barty Salinas. And our associate producer is AJ McKeon. This show is mixed and edited by AJ McKeon and Alan Smithy. Research by JJ Birch. Our theme song is by Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel, with additional music by Alex Mitchell. Artwork by Joe Bowen, Ollie Moss, and Pat Reynolds. Our production assistant is Minnick. Special thanks to David Cho, Jordan Fish, and Nate Patterson for their production help. Head over to blankcheckpod.com for links to all of the real nerdy shit. Join our Patreon, Blank Check Special Features, for exclusive franchise commentaries and bonus episodes. Follow us on social at blankcheckpod. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Checkbook, on Substack. This podcast is created and produced by Blank Check Productions.